Chapter 485. Tina's worldview had completely collapsed, and she sobbed like a weeping beauty. Teardrops slid down her white and tender cheeks, sparkling and translucent like little pearls under the sunlight. And Lynn stowed away the dazzling treasures hovering in the air before patting Tina's little head with a comforting expression. "All right, don't cry. It's just that the world is a little bigger than you think. What's there to cry about?" Tina wiped her tears away. But it's not just a little bigger, it's countless times bigger. And I've been deceived for over 10,000 years. I've been ignorant for over 10,000 years, wah? I'm crying at my own stupidity, and Lynn felt like he shouldn't say anything now. Instead, he should let her vent. When a person discovered that the world they knew was only a pitifully small cage, anyone would feel some negative emotions, especially the proud holy fairy maiden. She had finally reached the pinnacle of this world, only to find out that she was only at the level of a kindergarten. That was quite a heavy blow to her. The ancestral teachings of our elven tribe are to uphold the order of the entire Tai Chu continent. We've carried out this ancestral teaching for generations, and we call ourselves the guardians of the Tai Chu continent. Now it looks like this belief is so laughable. Tina sobbed. It's not really laughable. At the very least, you've ensured that all living beings on this continent can flourish in peace, and you can indeed be called the guardians of the Tai Chu continent. And Lynn offered words of consolation. Tina looked up at Lynn before suddenly saying, "I agree. I'll trade the 4 Holy Spirit Towers with you." And Lynn's eyes lit up upon hearing this. "You finally thought it through?" Tina nodded. "There's no rule against trading the Holy Spirit Towers anyway. At the end of the day, their only purpose is to materialize the Divine Lake. The Divine Lake isn't very useful anyway, and there are many forbidden areas that can replace it. As long as it can help the central city develop, I don't mind trading it away." "That's good. You've seen my treasures. Tell me, what do you need?" And Lynn said with a smile, "I want 5 holy pills that contain rich life force energy, 3 small holy grade weapons, and a tree with red flames and long roots. Is that okay?" Tina's voice trailed off toward the end, as if she felt like she was asking for too much. Wasn't that how business negotiations worked? First, raise a relatively high request, then slowly lower the standard, and finally stabilize it at a range that both parties could accept. And Lynn stroked his chin. 5 elixirs, 3 spirit weapons, and the fire blood god tree. These conditions were not high, and he could still accept them. Seeing that Lynn was deep in thought, Tina felt a little uneasy and ashamed. She added, "If I plant that tree with the red flames, it should be able to give birth to a new sacred cultivation ground that can replace the Holy Spirit Tower. That's why I don't want to abandon that tree. As for other things, we can still discuss them. There's no need for further discussion." "Deal." And Lynn laughed. "Huh?" Tina's eyes widened with incredulity as she stared at Lynn. "That's it? There's no need to bargain?" Seeing as Lynn had saved her life before, she was initially willing to agree to the deal, even if she only wanted the divine tree. Who would have thought that Lynn would agree so readily? The deal was sealed. Tina began to evacuate the people within the Holy Spirit Tower and the Divine Lake. Then, Lynn uprooted the 4 towers with his bare hands. He swept aside all of the surrounding buildings to reveal their dazzling cores. The golden realm essence crystals shimmered under the sunlight. They were about 1 meter in length and looked like spirit stones, but they exuded a unique energy fluctuation that made the space around them more viscous. All of the people gathered around the Divine Lake were dumbstruck as they stared at the incredulous scenes unfolding in the distance. The giant godfiend uprooted the Holy Spirit Tower, and the Holy Maiden was cooperating with him. However, they came to their senses in the next instant. The giant godfiend brought out 5 holy pills, 3 massive holy tools, and a strange-looking crimson tree, which he handed to the Holy Maiden. The Holy Maiden stowed these items away into her spatial tool. So, the Holy Maiden is making a deal with the giant godfiend. This giant godfiend is different from the giant godfiends of the past. Not only does it resemble a human in appearance, but it also possesses extremely high intelligence and many powerful treasures. On top of that, It also possesses unparalleled power. Even the Holy Maiden is no match for it. So a peaceful resolution is indeed the best outcome. That tree is clearly extraordinary, and there are so many holy pills and holy tools. Why do I feel like the giant godfiend is on the losing end? You didn't see the spectacular spectacle when the giant godfiend unleashed his treasures. Just as all of the powerful beings were discussing spiritedly among themselves, the deal between Enlin and the Holy Maiden had already concluded. The three spirit tools were ice shards, snowflake spikes, and frost needles. These are the three spirit tools that Enlin didn't know how to use. However, they were the most suitable spirit tools for a super tiny person like Tina, so everyone was happy with the outcome. Tina played with the two snowflake spikes in her hands. In her hands, the snowflake spikes were like snowflake spears that were even taller than herself. They came in sets of one basket and one white, and one holy tool was equivalent to two holy tools. Buy one, get one free. I'll give these snowflake spikes to Mandel and Harris. They are the most powerful guardians of the central city, so they have the right to receive these two holy tools, Tina suddenly said. She then surveyed her surroundings before turning pale with fright. Mandel, Harris, why are you two still lying in the pit? Mandel and Harris, who were practically useless, instantly burst into tears. My God, the Saintess has finally noticed us. In order to absorb the power of the realm essence crystals, Enlin needed a quiet and secluded place. Tina led him to a green, wood-restricted area. The life energy here was extremely rich, and there were guards standing guard outside, so normal people wouldn't disturb them. Enlin meditated on the grass and brought out 4 golden realm essence crystals. The mission given to him by the system was to obtain and absorb 10 golden realm essence crystals within a month. If he succeeded, he would obtain the embryonic body of the war god. He didn't know what this body of the war god was, but he could tell from its name that it was an extremely powerful existence. Enlin released 2 Gundams from his storage ring to stand guard for him. Then he activated his cultivation method and began to absorb the energy within the realm essence crystals. An indescribable power slowly flowed out from the realm essence crystals and flowed into Enlin's body. Fusing into his blood, organs, bones, and meridians, he was a little astonished, and he sighed to himself. Perhaps his constitution really was special. Normal people were completely unable to absorb the energy contained within the realm essence crystals. However, he was able to continuously absorb the energy within the realm essence crystals using his cultivation method. This rate of absorption wasn't very fast, and he could only absorb 1 golden realm essence crystal every hour or so. Tina summoned all of the powerful beings in the central city to deal with the aftermath of the battle. She also went to plant the Fireblood Divine Tree and distribute the holy pills and holy tools. Enlin finished absorbing the 4 realm essence crystals, and the system indicated that he had completed 4/10 of the mission. There were no changes within his body, and he didn't know what the effects of absorbing the energy within his body were. Enlin took a deep breath before slowly opening his eyes. He then discovered that Tina was sitting on a small rock. Her white dress danced in the wind, and her golden wings fluttered slightly, sending specks of golden light into the air. She rested her chin on her hands, and she swayed her legs as she gazed at Enlin with a pair of glowing eyes. Chapter 486. I didn't think that the energy of the Holy Spirit Tower could be absorbed into one's body. A clear and melodious voice rang out, like the chirping of a bird. Enlin looked at the realm essence crystals in front of him with a smile. In my world, these are called realm essence crystals. Not only do we have golden realm essence crystals, but we also have white, green, blue, and red realm essence crystals. If you have any more of these things, you could trade them with me. Tina shook her head with a smile. I don't have any more. From what I know, this is only available in our central city. If that's the case, then it's time for me to leave this place, Enlin said in a low voice. Leave? Are you going to the outside world? Tina looked at Enlin with a slightly shaky voice. Enlin nodded. That's right. I'm going to the outside world. It's a much bigger world there. But the border of the continent is a land of extreme frost. No one has ever been able to cross that place, so there's a very good chance that you'll freeze to death. Tina didn't say that Enlin was dead for sure, because Enlin was more powerful than anyone on this continent. You know that this is only a possibility. I'm very confident in my power, and it's not my style to give up exploring just because there's a possibility of danger. Enlin squatted down, and the setting sun cast a layer of light over his body. He looked down at Tina with a smile. The world is so big. If I'm trapped in one place, I'll miss out on many things, so I have to leave this place. Tina raised her head to look at the man before her, and her eyes shimmered like precious gems. Little Na, I'm going to go now. Enlin stood up and bade farewell before summoning his black brick. Wait! Tina's pleasant voice sounded from behind him. Enlin turned around with a perplexed expression. What is it? Is the scenery you showed me on that cube real? Tina raised her voice as she clenched her fists. Enlin chuckled lightly. It's all real. There's no reason for me to lie to you. Then can you bring me along? Tina pursed her lips and stared at Enlin with her beautiful eyes. Enlin was also dumbstruck as he stared blankly at Tina. The world is so big, and I want to see it too. I want to see a different scenery, and I want to see just how wonderful the real world is. Tina had a determined expression on her face, and her eyes were filled with a burning desire. Then your central city. Enlin hesitated. I've seen this city and this continent for 10,000 years. Now I just want to leave. My cousin's aptitude isn't bad. She's already at the peak of the immortal realm. She's qualified to inherit my position, Tina said. Should he wash his hands of the matter and let his cousin take over? Enlin deliberated for a moment before he nodded and said, All right, I promise you. I'll bring you out with me. Thank you. You're such a good person, Giant Enlin. Tina flapped her wings and spread open her arms before pouncing toward Enlin's chest excitedly. Splat! Tina's slender body pressed against Enlin's chest, successfully expressing her embrace. Enlin also wanted to give her a hug, but he was afraid that he might accidentally kill her with his hands. That would be terrible. Wait a moment, I'll go take care of some matters in the central city, Tina said excitedly. Enlin nodded with a smile before waiting on the spot and casually inspecting his immortal tool. At this moment, news of the holy fairy maiden abdicating her position to her cousin swept through the entire central city like a hurricane. All of the city residents were astonished, and none of them understood why something like this had happened. The higher-ups of the central city were also vehemently opposed to this. However, the two holy rank powerful beings in the central city, Mandel and Harris, strongly supported this idea. They said that Tina had more important things to do, and that she couldn't stay here. The holy fairy maiden was also very firm in her stance, and she allowed her cousin, Melody, to inherit her ancestral holy weapon on the very same day. Then, she held a coronation ceremony for her, under the watchful eyes of tens of thousands of people and with Tina as her witness. Melody raised her holy sword high into the air, and a white light descended from the sky. At that moment, Melody became the new holy maiden of the holy fairy tribe. Night fell. Tina appeared before Enlin again after shedding all of her power and glory. Her wings glowed with a faint golden light in the night sky, making her appear especially beautiful. Her white dress fluttered in the wind, and she looked like a white lotus that had bloomed under the moonlight. Sorry to keep you waiting, Giant Enlin. We can set off now. Tina smiled. Enlin summoned his black brick and sat down on it before patting the spot beside him. Come on up. Tina flapped her wings and landed on Enlin's shoulder. She tugged on Enlin's hair with her little hands as she said in a gentle voice, Let's do it here. The higher you stand, the farther you can see. Enlin. Thus, the two of them flew toward the edge of the continent under the cover of the night. This continent really wasn't very big. Enlin only flew for 6 hours before reaching the edge of the continent. The edge of the continent was an icy blue world. At the edge of the continent, even the air was blue. They soared into the sky like a tall wall that separated the continent. Enlin couldn't see where the edge of the continent ended, nor did he know what the blue gas was. However, He could occasionally see a few creatures that had accidentally entered the continent and been frozen into ice sculptures. And Lin thought about it for a moment before sitting down to meditate. "What's wrong? Aren't you going in now?" Tina asked. "Didn't you say this was a place of extreme cold? Let's wait until noon, when the sun is at its strongest. It'll be warmer that way," and Lin explained. Tina, that did sound reasonable. The two of them began a long period of waiting. During this time, and Lin brought out his frying pan and 100 steamers of stuffed buns to steam before stowing them away into his storage ring. Tina was completely perplexed by this process. She didn't know what Lin was doing. However, she found the aroma wafting from the steamers to be quite alluring. After what seemed like an eternity, and Lin's eyes suddenly lit up. He pulled out his vermilion bird mirror and asked, "Mirror, mirror, can you please tell me if there's a good way to pass through this place of extreme cold?" "I'm a hen." The vermilion bird mirror's reply was very concise. Slap, and Lin smashed the mirror onto the ground with rage. "Didn't you say you were knowledgeable? Why don't you know anything whenever I ask you a question? What use do I have for you?" "No, I've successfully answered one of your questions, and that is, you're not the most handsome." The vermilion bird mirror's immature, yet enraged voice sounded. "And Lin, wow, what is this? It looks so interesting." Tina flew over to the mirror on the ground with an intrigued expression and touched its smooth surface. "Little girl, I can see that your glabella has turned from red to black. This is a sign of great peril. I advise you to stay away from that man as much as possible. Only then will you be safe," the vermilion bird mirror said in a serious voice. And Lin's lips twitched. "Didn't you say you don't know how to read fortunes?" "I don't know how to read your fortune," the vermilion bird mirror replied honestly. And Lin felt like he was being targeted by the mirror, and he really wanted to smash the mirror. No, wait. He had already smashed the mirror once, but it didn't shatter. The material of the mirror was better than he had imagined. Should he smash it again? Slap! And Lin immediately smashed the vermilion bird mirror again. A line of text appeared on the surface of the vermilion bird mirror. "Life is full of ups and downs. Don't bully the mirror just because it's poor." Slap, slap, slap. And Lin smashed the mirror repeatedly with a cold smile on his face. "You need a F***king lesson." The sun slowly climbed up the mountain. There were a total of 2 suns. One was golden, while the other was red. They were like a pair of brothers, and they both emerged from the horizon at the same time before hanging high up in the sky, radiating boundless light and heat toward the continent. And Lin felt like this didn't make any sense at all. How were these 2 suns able to maintain such a stable orbit? Soon it was noon. The blue gas at the edge of the continent really did seem to have faded significantly. He didn't know whether it was because the sun had obscured its presence or if it really had faded significantly. And Lin stood up and stretched lazily. "Let's go." Chapter 487. And Lin stood up and began to make his way toward the glacial realm that separated the entire continent from the rest of the continent. Tina stood on Lin's shoulder and unleashed a defensive spell technique. A white barrier of light enshrouded both her and Lin's bodies like flowing water. And Lin was slightly taken aback. "What are you doing?" "I'm keeping this frosty power at bay." "Why?" Tina was perplexed. "Don't expend your energy too early. We don't know how far we'll have to travel to get through this glacial realm. We'll expend our energy to unleash a defensive barrier when our bodies are unable to withstand the frost," and Lin replied. "Oh." Tina obediently withdrew her defensive spell technique. As expected of a giant who had lived for over 20,000 years, she was indeed very experienced. And Lin extended his finger through the boundary between the 2 continents, and an extremely frosty sensation erupted from his fingertip. The blue gas seemed to have sensed something as it pounced toward Lin's finger. And Lin didn't evade and allowed the blue gas to converge on his finger. Immediately afterward, the terrifying frosty sensation threatened to freeze his entire finger, and the air itself began to crackle. The power of this frosty sensation was no less powerful than a soul formation stage Cultivator's frosty spell technique. And Lin harumphed coldly as divine flames of the great sun burst forth from his fingertip. The blue gas was instantly incinerated into nothingness by the scorching divine flames. He nodded. It looked like his divine flames were quite effective against the blue gas. He tossed a plume of flames in another direction, only to find that the blue gas didn't pounce toward it. Instead, it dodged into the distance. It looked like the blue gas only sought out living beings. And Lin paused momentarily before taking a deep breath. Then, he and Tina stepped into the perilous realm that no one had been able to pass. He and Tina were immediately struck by a bone-chilling cold as soon as they stepped into the glacial realm. Even spirit-nurturing stage cultivators wouldn't be able to last more than 15 minutes in temperatures like this. Tina instinctively wanted to unleash a defensive spell technique, but she stopped herself after recalling Lin's words. And Lin continued onward atop his black brick, and the blue gas in the surrounding space seemed to have sensed it and pounced toward Lin and Tina. However, it was left behind due to its slow speed. As they went deeper, the blue gas became a part of the space, and there was no way to hide. At this time, he could only rely on brute force. And Lin felt his entire body being enveloped by an extremely cold power, which was constantly seeping into his body, attempting to freeze his blood and meridians. At this moment, he felt an itch in his ear. "Hey, how'd you get in my ears?" And Lin exclaimed in shock. "Cold. Phew, it's so cold." Tina shivered uncontrollably in Lin's ear. And Tina couldn't help but cast a spell technique that could insulate the two of them from the cold. And Lin indicated that he could still hold on and asked her to cast a shield on herself. As they traveled deeper and deeper, the temperature began to drop, and the blue gas also became more and more concentrated. After traveling for another 10 or so kilometers, and Lin was finally unable to hold on any longer, and he unleashed his great holy flame to protect himself and Tina while swallowing a blood spirit pill. After traveling for less than 5 kilometers, the great holy flame was suddenly broken, and Lin had no choice but to unleash his demonic star flame. Then, the setting moon flame, the heavenly void flame, Tina looked up at the vast expanse of blue up ahead, and she began to chant over and over again, "I'm going to die. I'm going to die." And Lin's lips twitched upon hearing this. Why was Tina chanting over and over again in his ear? He felt as if there was a sinister female ghost blowing a sinister wind into his ear while cursing. "I'm going to die. I'm going to die." This was a F***king thrilling experience. Boom! Before they knew it, they had stumbled into a vast expanse of darkness. The terrifying power of frost instantly pierced through the defenses of the 4 divine flames, and Lin immediately unleashed his origin energy of the netherworld to materialize the 4 divine flames again. He had no intention of retreating now. His only thought was to pass through this area. Hold on tight. He spread open his wings of wind, and his speed abruptly increased explosively as his body transformed into a thin black line that flew forward in a frenzy. Tina pressed herself tightly against Lin's ear, and her face turned deathly pale as she looked up at the boundless darkness and the terrifying power of frost. Not long after that, a resounding boom erupted, and Lin crashed into a barrier. And Lin immediately pulled out his evil-slaying sword and slashed toward the barrier. Boom! The black sword projection was completely unscathed upon crashing into the barrier. Boundless frost began to corrode his divine flame, and it looked like it was about to completely break through. And Lin's heart stirred as he summoned his realm-piercing nail and began to chant a spell technique. This high-grade immortal artifact was the most effective in breaking through spatial barriers. Break through, and Lin roared, and the realm-piercing nail abruptly pierced toward the barrier before him with the power to break through a realm. A streak of red light pierced through the darkness, leaving a web-like crack in its wake. Boom! As if the light of day had returned, a blue light shone from the crack. And Lin charged into the crack without any hesitation and arrived in a new world. The pressure around him abated drastically, and even though it was still extremely cold, the terrifying power of frost had disappeared. His origin energy of the netherworld dissipated, and he half knelt to the ground in exhaustion. He turned around to look behind him to find that the hole in the barrier had already slowly returned to its original state. Tina also stared blankly at the scene behind her. Her delicate body swayed slightly, as if something had really been proven. Her eyes turned red and tears once again flowed down her cheeks. Before her was a gargantuan black barrier with no end in sight. The black barrier was slightly curved, as if it was encompassing something extremely gargantuan. She knew that what was being encompassed was the continent that she had always thought was the entire world. Tina turned her gaze forward to a vast expanse of mountains that stretched as far as the eye could see. Connected to the mountains was a sky of blue and purple. So this world really is vast. Tears streamed down Tina's face as she stared blankly at the scenery in the distance. Stop sighing. Help me up and use a spell technique to warm me up. And Lin's teeth chattered as he spoke. The after effects of using the origin energy of the netherworld made him temporarily unable to circulate his vital energy, and his cold resistance plummeted. Tina came to her senses and stared at Enlin with astonishment on her face. She clearly didn't think that giant Enlin would be so fragile. She immediately cast a warm barrier toward Enlin before materializing a giant hand of air to grab Enlin and fly toward the mountain ranges in the distance. After flying out of the world of ice and snow, Tina was greeted by the sight of a barren mountain range devoid of any signs of life. The outside world doesn't look all that beautiful. She pursed her lips, and Lin rolled his eyes. The world is so big. There must be beautiful scenery and ugly scenery. Huh? There seems to be something over there. Let's go take a look. Tina grabbed onto Enlin and flew toward a certain place in the distance with an excited expression. Chapter 488. Don't get so excited, little Na. Don't run around. I'm still in a weakened state. Can I develop more slowly for now? Enlin was grabbed by a vital energy hand, and he felt extremely uncomfortable, as if he were a little chick being grabbed by an eagle. Don't worry, his aura isn't very powerful. He's only at the heaven rank at most. Tina's eyes lit up as if she had discovered something new. And Lin rolled his eyes. What F** King heaven rank? Don't bring your old theories here. He narrowed his eyes as he looked at the moving figures in the distance. They were simply too far away for him to see clearly. However, he could vaguely make out that they looked like human figures. So many giant god fiends. Tina let loose a cry of surprise. And Lin also saw that they were a group of humans with black fur on their bodies. They weren't gorillas, they were humans. All of the humans wore blank expressions as they bared their white teeth. They seemed to have also spotted Enlin, and they immediately opened their mouths before charging toward Enlin and Tina. There were only about 100 of them, and their auras were only at the 7th or 8th stage Tao body. Can I kill them? Tina asked, and Lin shook his head. Forget it, they pose no threat to us. Let's conserve our energy and continue onward. He had only used the origin energy of the netherworld for a short period of time, so the after effects didn't last very long. He would recover after a while. Tina led Enlin deeper into the mountains in the distance, trying to find a place to rest. However, as they ventured deeper, they discovered that it was becoming more and more dangerous. The earth would release all types of poisonous creatures, such as giant spiders, scorpions, and pythons crawling all over the ground. All of them had one thing in common, and that was that they all had black fur on their bodies. Under the illumination of the sun, these black hairs were like black ink that sucked in light extremely deep. These poisonous creatures were all extremely dangerous, and they would spray venom toward Tina and Enlin in the sky. Tina had expended a lot of her energy to pass through the glacial realm, and she was feeling quite frustrated now that she had to divert some of her attention to avoid these attacks. Then, flaming vultures, bloodthirsty bats, demonic falcons, all sorts of terrifying creatures pounced toward Tina. Ugh, why are all the creatures in this world so scary? Why are they all so big, so powerful, so disgusting, so unfriendly? Tina looked at these sinister creatures in this barren, poisonous world, and began to complain incessantly with an aggrieved and frustrated expression. Are the images on your cube all lies? What about the beautiful scenery? Where are the cute little animals? She looked at Enlin with a resentful expression, as if she had been sold. Enlin's lips twitched as he explained, the images on my phone are images of the Tai Chu continent, not images of this crumbling continent. To be honest, I have no idea what this continent is like. Tina pursed her lips and harumphed lightly as her eyes darted around this world. It seemed that even in such an ugly world, there were still things that attracted her attention. Wow, what a huge mountain! Tina let loose a cry of surprise as she changed directions and flew toward a yellow mountain. And Lynn looked at the mountain to find that it was only about 1,000 feet tall. It was a little steep at most. How could a mountain like this be considered tall? Sigh, it's so pitiful to be so ignorant, always making a fuss over nothing. Tina flew toward the mountain with Enlin in tow. There was no poisonous gas emanating from the mountain, and there were no disgusting creatures either, so they decided to set this place up as a place to rest. Right at this moment, a pair of red eyes appeared on the top half of the mountain. Immediately afterward, the mountain began to tremor and crack open as a massive, cavernous mouth appeared before biting down toward Tina and Enlin. Ah! Tina screamed before turning around and fleeing with Enlin in tow. The neck of this massive mountain could elongate, and it shot forth like a gargantuan python. From Tina's perspective, it looked like a mountainous mouth was about to bite down on her. She had never seen such a terrifying scene before, and her face instantly paled with fear. Don't panic. It's just big. It's no match for you. Enlin yelled. Tina instinctively unleashed a fairy cannon of light upon hearing this. The white cannon of light crashed into the gargantuan mouth, upon which a violent explosion erupted, turning the inky black mouth into a vast expanse of white. The massive mountain tremored violently, and the mouth shrank back into itself. And Lynn heaved a sigh of relief. This massive mountain was only at the soul formation initial stage, but Tina was already at the soul formation pinnacle stage. In the face of an opponent like this, it would be far too humiliating for her to lose all of her battle intent. Tina stared at the retreating mountain with a hint of bewilderment. It's so big, so why is it so weak? Who gave you the illusion that the bigger it is, the more powerful it is? And Lynn snapped. Tina replied, You, and Lynn. Just as the two of them were about to leave, the sky suddenly began to tremor. Immediately afterward, a series of inky black rifts appeared in the sky, extending as far as the eye could see. At the very least, from Enlin's perspective, this was the case in a radius of close to 5 kilometers. These rifts were like a gargantuan black net that enshrouded the entire sky. Immediately afterward, the rifts split open, and an inky black liquid flowed out from within. This liquid was extremely dense and dark, and it fell toward the ground like inky black blades. Huh, what's this? Tina stretched out her hand curiously, wanting to examine the black liquid. And Lynn was shocked to see this. Danger! Get away from this liquid. In Tina's heart, and Lynn had already become an extremely knowledgeable senior. Hence, after hearing Enlin's words, she immediately gave up on the idea of examining the liquid and dragged Enlin with her as they dodged the black liquid. The massive mountain seemed to have encountered something extremely terrifying. The mountain seemed to have become even shorter, and a golden barrier of light appeared above the mountain like an umbrella. The black liquid fell to the ground and penetrated the ground without any impediment, leaving a series of terrifying rifts in its wake. Some of the creatures on the ground were unable to evade in time, and their bodies were sliced apart by the black liquid as they wailed in anguish. What? What is this liquid? Tina's face turned pale with fright. There were no energy fluctuations emanating from the liquid, but it was imbued with extremely terrifying power. If it weren't for the fact that Enlin had stopped her in time, her little hand would have most likely been severed already. This is the power of chaos that has dissipated into this world. This crumbling world is no longer able to maintain its stability. Enlin heaved a forlorn sigh. From the information he had received, this continent had already been reduced to less than 1% of its original size, and many parts of it had already been reduced to nothingness. It appeared that this place was also in the process of crumbling. Tina unleashed a series of movement techniques to evade the black liquid, but the massive mountain was simply too massive, and she could only take the black liquid head-on. The golden barrier of light that resembled an umbrella was initially able to keep some of the black liquid at bay. However, an extremely massive rift suddenly appeared in the sky, and a huge clump of black liquid flowed out of the rift before raining down upon a massive mountain like a miniature waterfall. The terrifying power of the black liquid instantly sliced the golden umbrella apart. The black liquid was like the sharpest blade, and the massive mountain's body was sliced cleanly in half like butter. The massive mountain didn't even have a chance to let loose a wail of anguish before its body was sliced in half. White liquid flowed through the air like floodwaters. That was most likely blood. The massive mountain's body was then sliced into pieces by the black liquid falling from the sky. This was a process similar to dismemberment, and the massive mountain's body was sliced into countless pieces, creating an extremely gruesome sight to behold. Tina's slender body was trembling slightly. In her eyes, the black liquid was emanating an extremely terrifying aura of death that enshrouded her entire body. Thankfully, this calamity didn't last for too long. A burst of self-repairing mighty power of heaven and earth appeared, and the black rift in the sky slowly closed up. Everything returned to normal. That's right, the entire earth seemed to have been cleansed, and everything was deathly silent. All of the ravines and bottomless rifts on the ground began to slowly mend together before returning to their original state, as if they were scars that had been healed. Some dark life forms began to squirm and regenerate, as if they had regained their vitality. So this is what rain looks like in the outside world. So scary. So scary. Tina muttered incessantly. And Lynn, how did this little girl end up imagining things like this? Did she even listen to his explanation just now? It's so scary, but it's very exciting. Tina's voice was trembling with excitement. And Lynn, so, did she awaken to something? Chapter 489. On a certain plateau in the ancient Taichu realm, a pitch-black true demon with a pair of horns on its head and a pair of bat wings on its back tore a Westsea ancient demon into shreds. Ha ha! The realm essence crystals are mine. The true demon stowed the ancient demon's storage ring in its hand, and its crimson eyes glowed with a bloodthirsty red light as it stared at the green crystals on the ground. There were 16 of them, on the summit of a certain snowy mountain 15 kilometers away. A short woman in a pink dress opened her yellow eyes and looked toward a certain direction in the distance. Her eyes were as sharp as an eagle's, and her slender waist bent slightly as she drew her pink longbow. 16 green realm essence crystals, which is equivalent to 480,000 spirit stones. On top of that, the storage rings of 2 soul formation stage powerful beings, divine technique, spatial demon-slaying arrow. Vital energy surged violently before materializing into a pink arrow, from which terrifying power continued to accumulate. She possessed the bloodline of the Kuan Peng, an ancient mythological beast, and had awakened the eyes of the Kuan Peng, which granted her the ability to lock onto a target and see beyond the visual range. This ability, combined with her extraordinary archery skills, made her invincible in this world. The true demon in the distance was already her third prey. The true demon sang a song as it stowed the realm essence crystals into its storage ring like a farmer harvesting his crops. After plucking the last radish, it heaved a sigh of relief, and a satisfied smile appeared on its face. Right at this moment, it suddenly felt a chill run down its spine. In the face of impending doom, it immediately turned around and shielded its head with its hands. Whoosh! A pink arrow pierced through the air, leaving a dazzling pink trail in its wake before crashing into the true demon's hands. The terrifying power of the arrow instantly tore its hands apart before crashing into the true demon's head. Boom! The explosion of energy tore apart the earth within a radius of over a kilometer, and a small mushroom cloud rose into the air. What a day of nuclear annihilation! The woman chuckled as she flew toward the direction of the explosion. At the center of the explosion, the true demon's powerful body had already been reduced to charcoal, and its head was nowhere to be seen. Time to collect the treasures. The woman picked up the 2 storage rings from the ground with a smile and was just about to leave. At this moment, the ground within a radius of 1,000 feet suddenly surged up in a circle of water. Half a kilometer away, a gigantic seahorse with lightning coiled around its body and a silver spear in its hand had a smile on its face. Turtle Priest, your strategy was quite accurate. Not only was the direction correct, even the timing was perfect. The air twisted and a 3-zhong-long sea turtle suddenly appeared, holding a golden stone in its mouth. Humph! How dare you kill the demons of the West Sea? Pay with your life. Pooh! It spat out a mouthful of golden stones towards the woman in the pink dress. Seeing this, the woman was startled and immediately fled in the opposite direction. She wasn't very strong in close combat, and she had expended too much of her energy in that arrow. She had no chance of winning against 2 Soul Formation Final Stage West Sea Demon Tribe cultivators. Hee hee, you want to run? The seahorse chuckled coldly as it transformed into a bolt of lightning and pounced toward the woman at an extremely fast speed. At this moment, Lin and Tina had finally escaped from the poisonous mist and arrived at a certain plateau. Phew! The scenery here is quite nice. Let's rest here. And Lin couldn't be bothered to run around anymore, so he swallowed a blood spirit pill and sat down to meditate. He had already recovered from the aftereffects of using the origin energy of the netherworld, but he still couldn't fight. For safety's sake, he could only find a place to rest and wait for the aftereffects to pass. You call this a nice scenery? Tina placed her hands on her hips with an enraged expression. There isn't even a single green plant here. It's all black and barren. And you call this a nice scenery? And Lin pursed his lips. Then, how about we go back? Tina, and Lin didn't say anything else and closed his eyes to rest. After what seemed like an eternity, a series of explosions suddenly erupted in the distance. Wow, Giant and Lin, look over there. There's a very powerful creature fighting 5 kilometers away. Tina exclaimed with excitement. What the F***ck are you looking at? Hurry up and cast a concealment spell technique on us. The creatures of this world don't treat bystanders with kindness. And Lin rolled his eyes at Tina. Tina obediently cast a holy elven concealment spell technique on Lin and herself. Wow, that seahorse and turtle are so powerful. The other giant god fiend can't hold on, Tina exclaimed. And Lin's brows perked up upon hearing this. Giant god fiend? Does it have wings, horns, tail, something like that? Wings? Horns? Tail? How could a giant god fiend have something like that? Oh, right. She's wearing clothes just like you, so she looks very much like a human, Tina continued. And Lin abruptly stood up before turning toward the direction Tina was pointing in. Lightning and waves were surging there, but they were 5 kilometers away, so they couldn't see what was happening. That giant god fiend was electrocuted again, and it's running toward us. Should we retreat so we don't get caught up in the battle? Tina asked, and Lin fell silent for a moment before shaking his head with a firm expression. Forget it, let's just fight. The giant god fiend that Tina was referring to was most likely a human, which meant that it was a member of the Celestial Court. And Lin wasn't going to leave a member of the Celestial Court in the lurch. Even though he couldn't fight, he still had Gundams 1 and Gundams. Right at this moment, the woman in the pink dress was already less than 1.5 kilometers away from Lin. She was in quite a sorry state, and her long black hair was slightly curled up from being struck by the lightning. Her dress was torn and stained with blood, revealing her fair and well-proportioned calves. Gundams 1, Gundams 2, trapped the seahorse and turtle. And Lin's storage ring flashed, and 2 majestic mechanical puppets appeared in the air. And Lin and Tina had both withdrawn their concealment spell techniques, so the woman in the pink dress was able to spot them from afar and a glimmer of hope reignited in her eyes. And Lin recognized this woman. Wang Xuanzhan had introduced her to him before. Her name was Lu Chuchu. Lu Chuchu was a senior student 13 years older than him, and she was currently at the soul formation pinnacle stage. She was one of the most bad *SS students in the past few years, so she had a portrait of her in the university's Hall of Fame. And Lin, I didn't think I'd see you here. Come on, let's kill those two stinky sea monsters together. Lu Chuchu immediately recognized the man in the distance, and her eyes lit up with excitement. She was very confident in Lin's strength, and she immediately turned to attack the sea monsters. Seahorse, turtle, you've chased me all the way across the plateau, so it's time for you to die. She unleashed a flurry of arrows toward the seahorse in front of her. And Lin didn't expect that Lu Chuchu would recognize him. He was given a huge fright upon seeing that she didn't try to escape and instead tried to retaliate. Senior Sister Lu, don't rush over. I can't fight due to some kind of restriction. And Lin's words caused Lu Chuchu to stumble, and a chill ran down her spine. She didn't even have a chance to say anything before the seahorse with the silver spear in its hand had already evaded one arrow after another before charging toward her. Chapter 490. Lu Chuchu retreated with all her might, but the lightning seahorse's silver spear was even faster than her. Right at this moment, a blue ionic deprivation barrier appeared in front of Lu Chuchu. The two Gundams had sprung into action. Boom! The spear collided with the ionic deprivation barrier, and a resounding boom erupted. Energy exploded, but the spear's terrifying power still managed to tear the light barrier apart. However, due to this momentary delay, Lu Chuchu had already retreated over 100 meters away. She drew her bow, and a series of pink energy arrows flew through the air toward the seahorse's body. These energy arrows were extremely fast, and the seahorse didn't even have time to withdraw its spear to evade them. A gigantic water barrier rose up from the ground, blocking the seahorse's path. Boom, boom, boom. The flying arrows crashed into the water barrier, creating a series of splashes. The water barrier was like a sturdy metal plate, and it was able to keep the energy arrows at bay. An elderly but calm voice sounded. Oh, who would have thought that you would have human helpers? However, you won't be able to escape. I've already prepared my golden stone space, so you'll all have to stay here. A huge sea turtle flew toward the seahorse from behind before spitting out a golden stone. The stone flew into the sky, upon which a brilliant golden light erupted forth. Immediately afterward, a golden space with a radius of half a kilometer instantly enshrouded Lin and Lu Chuchu. Wow, what a huge turtle. This turtle is even bigger than the ones I've seen in the past. Tina stared at the sea turtle with astonishment on her face. And Lin pursed his lips. That's a sea turtle, not a turtle. Oh, then what was it saying just then? Why can't I understand it? Was it speaking the sea turtle language? Tina asked. That's the Tai Chu language. And Lin rolled his eyes. Nonsense. We're speaking the Tai Chu language now. Tina placed her hands on her hips. And Lin shook his head. You don't know *T. We're speaking the ancient man language now. Tina didn't retort upon hearing this. After all, Lin's reputation as an erudite and knowledgeable person was still firmly rooted in her heart. She felt like she was a country bumpkin, and everything Lin said was the law. Lu Chuchu had also discovered the little fairy beside Lin. Even though their escape route had been sealed, the two of them were still conversing in a strange language, and she couldn't help but speak in a panicked voice. Mr. Lin, this space has been sealed by the Golden Rock, so you can't fight. I won't be able to hold on even with those two silver puppets. Just as they were speaking, Gundam 1 and Gundam 2 had already been smashed into the ground by the lightning seahorse, and the huge sea turtle also began to pounce toward Lu Chuchu. Don't be afraid. You still have Little Elf, and Lin comforted. Little Elf? Lu Chuchu glanced suspiciously at the tiny creature that was no larger than a mosquito. Go, Little Na. It's time for you to display your true strength. And Lin said, Pooh, The sea turtle spat out a wave of water toward Lu Chu Chu and Enlin. The wave grew larger and larger until it reached over 1,000 feet in height before sweeping toward the two of them. Holy judgment, Astia, holy slash. Tina raised her hands high into the air, and a silver longsword flew into the sky. The sword was so sharp that even the space around it began to tremor before slashing down toward the massive wave. With a hua sound, the silver longsword split the huge waves with unparalleled power and slashed toward the sea turtle. An expression of shock appeared on the sea turtle's face, and it instantly retracted its head into its shell. Boom! The monstrous sword strike struck the turtle's shell, and a gash was carved into the turtle's shell. The enormous force behind the strike even knocked the sea turtle back several hundred meters. Not only did Lu Chu Chu's eyes widen in shock, but even the seahorse was also given a fright. This tiny creature's strength was way too powerful, and Lin nodded with satisfaction. This Tina was a lot more powerful than when he had battled her. At the time, Tina had just returned from slaying the evil dragon, and she had to suppress the power of the curse. Even so, the power she could unleash was comparable to that of a cultivator at the soul formation pinnacle stage. Now that her injuries had been completely healed, she was naturally even more powerful. Lu Chu Chu saw a glimmer of hope, and she turned to Tina. "Little fairy, can you hold off those two sea monsters for 10 seconds while I prepare a spell technique?" And Lin relayed her words to Tina, and Tina nodded. "I'll do my best." Lu Chu Chu took a deep breath, and her eyes became extremely sharp again. She slowly drew her pink longbow, and an extremely vast and mighty aura began to emanate from her body. The seahorse knew that something was amiss upon seeing this, and it immediately transformed into a bolt of lightning before pouncing toward Lu Chu Chu. Tina materialized a white holy light longsword before pouncing toward the seahorse. "Piss off!" The seahorse roared as it swung its silver sword through the air, sweeping up waves of lightning. Tina pursed her lips as her white holy light longsword transformed into an impenetrable sword net, which kept the seahorse's ferocious attacks at bay. 3 seconds later, the pink arrow of energy had taken shape. However, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth was still surging toward the arrow of energy. The color of the arrow deepened, and the energy fluctuations emanating from its body became more and more fearsome. And Lin stared at Lu Chu Chu with astonishment on his face. He felt like he was looking at a heavenly bird soaring through the heavens, and that heavenly bird was staring down at its prey. Lu Chu Chu's current state was completely different from her disheveled self from before. She had transformed into a hunter, as if she were a god of slaughter who stood in the heavens and reigned supreme over her enemies. And Lin was impressed by Lu Chu Chu's ability to make it onto the university's celebrity rankings board. Not only was she at the pinnacle of her cohort of students, but she was also the most dazzling among all cohorts of students. Whoosh, 10 seconds later, a small crimson arrow appeared at the center of the pink arrow, and the tip of the arrow was glowing with a menacing red light. Divine technique, bloodline demon-slaying arrow. Lu Chu Chu let loose a delicate cry, and the arrow left the bow. The pink arrow glowed with a red light as it tore through the air at an extremely terrifying speed, hurtling directly toward the seahorse's head. The seahorse reacted extremely quickly as lightning burst forth from its body, and it instantly teleported several hundred meters to the side. Whoosh! The pink arrow suddenly changed direction, and a red light flashed as it locked onto the seahorse's head. A chill ran down the seahorse's spine, and an extremely terrifying sense of impending doom engulfed its entire body. "Break through!" It roared as lightning burst forth from its silver spear, and it stabbed toward the direction from which the arrow was flying. The spear was traveling at an extremely fast speed, and it seemed like it was going to collide with the arrow. However, right at that instant, the arrow suddenly disappeared. An illusion technique? The seahorse blinked in confusion. Bam! In the next instant, its head exploded into a cloud of blood mist, and its consciousness was pulverized by the terrifying power of the explosion. Immediately afterward, a series of red vein patterns appeared on the seahorse's body, and they spread over its entire body like blood vessels. Bam! The seahorse's body also exploded, and it couldn't be any more dead. And Lin's eyes widened in shock. What kind of F***king archery technique was this? Could it be spatial skipping? Speaking of which, she was able to perform spatial skipping even before reaching the return to void stage. However, upon further thought, even he was able to tear through space with his realm-piercing nail. So it made sense that Lu Chuchu was a little freakish after unleashing that arrow. Lu Chuchu's features paled slightly, and she looked around the battlefield with a curious expression. Huh, where's that sea turtle? And Lin faltered slightly upon hearing this. That's right, where's the sea turtle? Not only had the sea turtle disappeared, but even the golden spatial barrier had also disappeared. Lu Chuchu looked around before pursing her lips. I thought there would be a tough battle, but the sea turtle ran away so quickly. And Lin didn't say anything, but his heart ached for the seahorse. Several dozen kilometers away, a sea turtle was holding a golden rock in its mouth as it quickly swam into the distance. Two puppets, a powerful fairy, and a super powerful archer. If we were to fight, our chances of winning are less than 50%. If we lose, both the seahorse and I will die. If we run away at the same time, the seahorse has a 30% chance of dying, and I have a 20% chance of dying. However, if I run away on my own, my chances of survival are 100%. This is a choice that can be made without any hesitation. Learn more divination techniques to seek fortune and avoid calamity. Only then can you live a long life. Don't worry, brother seahorse. I'll definitely find an opportunity to avenge you in the future. The sea turtle's voice reverberated through the air as its massive body slowly disappeared into the clouds and mist. Chapter 491. Lu Chuchu picked up the seahorse's storage ring and tossed it to Enlin. This is for you. You saved me during this battle, so you should keep this. Enlin accepted the storage ring and immediately refined it to see if there was anything good inside. Tina picked up the seahorse's silver spear. This was a high-rank spirit tool, so it was quite an excellent weapon. She was quite tempted, but she still obediently placed it beside Enlin. Enlin looked into the storage ring and was a little disappointed to find that there were no golden realm essence crystals. However, there were 6 white realm essence crystals, which were the lowest grade. He pulled out the realm essence crystals and tried to activate his cultivation method to absorb the energy within them. But to his surprise, there was no reaction. So I can only absorb the energy of golden realm essence crystals. And Lin shook his head before continuing to peer into the storage ring. There were 36 vital stones, 3 spirit tools, 5 spirit pills, and a bunch of random materials in the storage ring. Perhaps it was because he was too rich, but anyone's storage ring made him feel like that person was a pauper, and there was not the slightest ripple in his heart. What's wrong? There's nothing good in there? Lu Chuchu couldn't help but ask upon seeing the lack of joy on Enlin's face. No, there aren't even immortal pills or immortal tools. I'm too poor. Enlin heaved a forlorn sigh. Lu Chuchu. Perhaps it was because they had different views on wealth, but Lu Chuchu really didn't want to say anything. Enlin placed all of these items into his storage ring before pulling out a long sword that exuded a frosty aura. The frosty aura emanating from the sword made the entire space feel as if it had been plunged into winter. Tina, you did well. You can have this elementary rank immortal tool, the Heart Lotus Ice Sword. This immortal tool can change its size at will, so it's quite suitable for you. Also, if you need any other weapons, feel free to tell me. And Lin handed the long sword to Tina. Tina stared at the long sword in her hand with a slightly dazed expression. Jine and Lin, is this really for me? She could sense that this weapon was of a higher grade than a holy tool. Of course, it's just an inanimate object in my storage ring, so I might as well give it to you to enhance your combat prowess. The previous battle was too urgent, so I didn't have time to give it to you. Take it now. And Lin smiled. Tina refined the immortal artifact, and as expected, it began to shrink according to Tina's will. The sword hilt also had an azure lotus flower in full bloom, looking exceptionally beautiful. Tina loved it so much that she couldn't bear to part with it. She rushed over to Enlin and gave him a big hug. Splat! Although Enlin didn't feel anything, he still smiled dotingly. In fact, when Tina had accepted his suggestion and risked her life to battle the seahorse turtle, he had already treated her as one of his own. Lu Chuchu's lips twitched at the sight of Enlin casually tossing out an immortal tool. Fellow Taoist Enlin, what do you plan to do next? She pondered for a moment before asking. Find the huge, starry mountain and the realm essence crystals, Enlin replied without any hesitation. A faint smile appeared on Lu Chuchu's face. How about I come with you guys? Enlin nodded in agreement. As expected, you think I'm a very safe man? Lu Chuchu's features convulsed slightly, but she forced herself to continue. I've discovered my shortcomings through this battle. Even though I'm very adept at sniping enemies, my life is in danger if I allow them to get close to me. No living being in the ancient Tai Chu realm is a weakling, so I've chosen to team up with you. I'll be responsible for sniping, and you'll be responsible for melee combat and protection. This combination will definitely yield very good results. Enlin nodded. Got it. You'll be the ADC, and I'll be the tank. Lu Chuchu. Then we'll split the storage rings we obtain among you, me, and the little one. We'll also split the wild realm essence crystals equally among us. What do you think? Enlin's eyes lit up upon hearing this. What belonged to Tina was also his. This was a very good idea. Killing others and stealing their treasures is one of the most delightful activities of cultivation. I accept your invitation to team up with us, so we'll be a team from now on. Enlin smiled. Lu Chuchu heaved a sigh of relief upon hearing this, and she extended her hand with a smile. Enlin understood what she meant and gave her a high five. Tina didn't understand what they were talking about, and she was happily playing with the Heart Lotus Ice Sword in her hand. Enlin thought for a moment before tossing a Tai Chu language encyclopedia to Tina. This was a book that the white-scale wolf god had compiled while learning the Tai Chu language from Dubai, and it was specifically designed for the Man tribe to learn the Tai Chu language. Tina held up a book that was several dozen times larger than her, with a dumbstruck expression on her face. Giant Enlin, what do you mean by this? Read it when you're bored. In the future, all the people you encounter will be speaking the Tai Chu language. If you don't want to become a retard, then study this book, Enlin explained in a benevolent voice. Tina, in the face of Giant Enlin's tyranny, Tina could only carefully flip open the book. There were both familiar and unfamiliar words on the book, as well as notes on pronunciation and explanations of the meaning. Tina began to chant along with the pronunciation of the Tai Chu language. The most important thing right now was to master the spoken Tai Chu language. Enlin was very pleased to see Tina working so hard. He had mastered the Tai Chu language just by imitating a dog's bark. Now, he was even more elated to see that others could only master the Tai Chu language after studying it diligently. Due to the lingering effects of the origin energy of the netherworld, the three of them were resting on the spot. Lu Chuchu was a little petite, and she sat sideways on a rock with her legs crossed. Her hands glowed with a white light as she fiddled with the pink longbow in her hands. Enlin couldn't sense any spirit or immortal tool energy fluctuations from the longbow. Instead, he could sense a special type of energy fluctuations that he had never sensed before. This piqued his curiosity, and he asked about the longbow's origins. A vibrant smile appeared on Lu Chuchu's face upon hearing this, and she didn't try to hide anything as she provided an explanation. The longbow was materialized from a small portion of her essential bloodline, so it was different from normal weapons, as it was a type of bloodline weapon. Enlin was extremely impressed upon hearing this. This was because bloodline weapons were very special weapons, and he had only read about them in books. In order to refine this type of weapon, one had to have an extremely powerful bloodline, and it would take a very long time to materialize. Its advantage was that it could fuse the power of the bloodline into the weapon to maximize its power. Furthermore, the weapon could be used at will, thereby maximizing the user's flexibility. However, Its weakness was also very obvious. This weapon was connected to the user's bloodline. Once the weapon was damaged, it would inevitably backfire on the user's bloodline, even causing irreversible damage. This was also the reason why bloodline weapons were relatively rare. After all, no one wanted to expose their bloodline to the outside world and let others attack them. Lu Chuchu had invested all of her skill points in a damage output. Not only was her body extremely fragile, but even her weapon was also extremely fragile. No wonder she wanted to form an alliance with him. 4 hours later, Lin had completely recovered, and Lu Chuchu had also adjusted herself to her peak condition. "Let's go," Lin yelled. "Let's go," Tina yelled. Lu Chuchu stared at Tina with shock on her face. "Little fairy, you can speak now." Tina looked at Lu Chuchu with confusion in her eyes. "You've been studying for 4 hours. If you can't even speak, then what kind of fairy are you?" Lu Chuchu and Lin, he seemed to have underestimated the learning abilities of fairies. Was language really that easy to learn? He suddenly felt a little depressed. Chapter 492. Lin, Tina, and Lu Chuchu began their journey. Lu Chuchu had discovered an obvious coordinate on the map, the Gu Wu Great Rift Valley. It was also because of this rift valley that they were located in the southwestern region of the ancient Tai Chu realm. They were now flying toward the north. There was a Panlong mountain there, and there was a very good chance that realm essence crystals would appear there. Lu Chuchu stood on Lin's black brick, and her eyes glowed with a faint light, as if they could pierce through space and see the scenery in the extremely far distance. Panlong Mountain is the name of a region in the ancient Tai Chu realm. There are ancient dragon tribe living beings there, and their bodies have a certain chance of forming realm essence crystals. There are also some special places in that region that have a very high chance of forming realm essence crystals. Due to the abundance of realm essence crystals in that region, it's one of the places where battles are the most intense. It's a very dangerous place. "Fortune is found in danger," Lin replied. "Nothing ventured, nothing gained," Tina chimed in. She could even speak idioms now. "Don't worry, I'm at my peak right now, and I'm not afraid of anyone," Lin said with a confident expression. "Don't be fooled by my small stature, but I'm quite powerful." Tina had even learned how to speak in the Tai Chu language. Lu Chuchu pursed her lips as she listened to Lin and Tina's exchange of words. She had heard many rumors about Lin, and she couldn't help but feel that he was a little different from what she had imagined. After flying for a short while, a black continent with many tall mountains appeared before the three of them. There were some rare plants growing on the ground, but all of them were red in color, and they appeared particularly eerie on the black continent. "You two protect me. I'm going to look around to see if there are any enemies." Lu Chuchu flew to the summit of a mountain, and her pink dress fluttered in the wind, as if she were a vibrant peony at the summit of the mountain. A faint light flashed through her eyes, and her yellow pupils became extremely sharp as she surveyed her surroundings. Lin stood beside her and surveyed their surroundings cautiously. Lu Chuchu's Eye of the Kuan Peng had a range of 15 kilometers. This was an extremely terrifying distance, as most soul formation stage cultivators could only sense within a radius of a few kilometers. Even cultivators at the soul formation pinnacle stage could only sense within a radius of 5 kilometers. It could be said that if there's only one enemy, Lu Chuchu would definitely be able to snipe them down. 15 minutes later, Lu Chuchu's body faltered slightly, but her sharp eyes didn't waver as she stared intently in a certain direction. Lin couldn't help but ask, "How is it? Did you discover anything?" Lu Chuchu didn't say anything. Instead, she pulled out her longbow and slowly drew the bowstring. At this moment, she seemed to be a god that ruled over the life and death of others. Lofty, ethereal, and filled with killing intent. Essence chi surged and gathered into a pink arrow. A terrifying fluctuation spread out in all directions. Divine art, spatial demon-slaying arrow. Whoosh! The arrow left the bowstring and set off a fierce hurricane. The arrow penetrated into the distance in an instant, leaving only a pink trail in the air. Finally, in the distance wherein Lin couldn't see clearly, a resplendent light burst out like a dazzling pearl. And Lin's heart surged with excitement upon seeing this. This was the first time he had witnessed such a long-range snipe. It was simply too cool. Let's go pick up some treasures. Lu Chu leaped onto Lin's brick and pointed in a certain direction with a dainty smile. And Lin nodded before flying toward the direction of the explosion atop his brick. Over 10 kilometers away, a massive crater had appeared at the site of the explosion, and a massive headless body had been reduced to charcoal. And Lin looked at the body and could vaguely make out that it had 4 extremely thick and powerful legs. Its entire body was covered in sharp spikes, so it was most likely an extremely powerful beast. It's a soul beast from the sinister spirit beast cesspool. Lu Chu made her way toward the body before picking up a shimmering golden bracelet. That was most likely the spatial artifact that contained the treasure. Done. I love killing people and stealing their treasures. It's much more exciting than searching for realm essence crystals. Lu Chu replied, and Lin nodded in agreement. He had made his fortune by killing people and stealing their treasures. Oh, and selling stuffed buns. He turned toward the soul beast with a hint of sympathy in his eyes. Sigh, a soul beast of the soul formation stage died, just like that. What a tragedy. That's just how this world is. Strength is everything. There are enemies everywhere here, so if you don't want to be killed, you have to strike first. Lu Chu's adorable features adopted a mature expression, and Lin nodded. He wasn't an inflexible person. Prior to coming here, Emperor Ziwei had told him that aside from the Buddhist kingdom, the Garden of Eden, the Hall of Creation, the Dragon Core of the Eastern Seas, the North Song Mountain Realm, and the Spirit Lake Realm, all other living beings were their enemies. If you showed mercy to your enemies, then you would be giving them an opportunity to kill you. Lu Chu stowed the spatial artifact away before continuing to hunt with Lin. There really were quite a few powerful beings on Panlong Mountain. After 6 hours, Lu Chu killed a 2-headed bird from the southern Heavenly Wing Nation and a soul formation stage powerful being from the Dark Wing tribe. All of these powers were on their own, so Lin didn't do anything other than cheer them on from the sidelines and received 2 storage rings worth of treasures. He rummaged through the storage rings to find a total of 105 vital stones, 7 spirit tools, about a dozen spirit pills, 20 white realm essence crystals, and 3 green realm essence crystals. Unfortunately, there were no golden realm essence crystals. Tina's share was naturally kept by Lin on her behalf. After all, she was so young and needed an adult to look after these things for her. Thus, the 3 of them didn't even see a single realm essence crystal before they obtained the storage rings of 3 enemy forces. This was quite a strange way to develop, but the 3 of them were quite happy. Why would they go through so much trouble to find realm essence crystals? Without realm essence crystals, their enemies would help them find them, so all they had to do was steal from their enemies. It was a quick and convenient process, and there was also the reward of opening a treasure trove. Their ADC stood on the summit of a tall mountain again, and his sharp eyes scanned the surrounding battlefield before settling on a certain direction. And Lin's eyes lit up upon seeing this. Finally, there was prey. However, this time, Lu Chu didn't draw her bow. Instead, her brows furrowed. "What is it?" And Lin asked. "There's a White Lake realm over there, and I discovered a group of blood tribe cultivators, but there are 5 of them." Lu Chu replied. "Can't you shoot them at the same time?" And Lin asked. Lu Chu rolled her eyes. "If you can shoot them at the same time, why would I need you?" Under normal circumstances, the divine technique, Double Dragon Arrow, has a certain probability of killing 2 soul formation final stage powerful beings at the same time. However, the blood tribe cultivators have extremely powerful life force, so I have to use the divine soul arrow if I want to kill them. It's extremely taxing, and killing one is already my limit, Lu Chu explained. And Lin's brows furrowed slightly. There were 5 enemies. Lu Chu had been rendered useless after just 1 attack. Didn't that mean that he and Tina would have to deal with 4 soul formation stage blood tribe cultivators? These weren't just normal soul formation stage blood tribe cultivators either. They were the cream of the crop, even among soul formation stage cultivators. However, His eyes suddenly lit up again. Can you shoot all 5 arrows at the same time and strike all 5 Blood Tribe cultivators at the same time? I can, but it's only enough to tickle them. What's the point? Lu Chu rolled her eyes at Enlin again. Enlin chuckled. Have you heard of the Poison Lord? Chapter 493. Poison Lord. Lu Chu faltered slightly as she stared at Enlin. You? A smug smile appeared on Enlin's face. That's right, I, Poison Lord, am invincible. He continued, dip your arrows in my blood and shoot them at the same time. As long as those 5 arrows can wound the Blood Tribe cultivators, they'll be poisoned to death. Lu Chu was a little skeptical. It's that powerful. I guarantee it. Enlin thumped his chest confidently. Meanwhile, at the border of the White Lake realm, 4 Blood Tribe cultivators in red robes were setting up a spell formation on the ground. They were led by a man with golden hair and crimson eyes, and he stood at the forefront of the group of 4 as he stared intently at the White Lake. Louise, is the spirit-crippling spell formation ready? The man asked. A seductive woman chuckled softly. Everything is ready. We're just waiting for Cecil to finish setting up his blood-binding spell formation. The handsome young man raised his head and nodded with a calm expression. Simpson, I've also finished setting up my blood-binding spell formation. A smile appeared on Simpson's face as he looked at the 4 people around him. Very good. Now, let's lure out the thing at the bottom of the lake. That thing is a little strange, so make sure you don't let it get close to you. The other 4 nodded solemnly before activating the spell formation within their bodies. Right at this moment, 5 streaks of pink light tore through the air like bolts of lightning. Look out! Simpson roared. Boom, boom, boom. The arrows exploded, leaving a series of lethal trajectories in their wake. Louise's body was deflected, and the tip of the arrow slashed past her shoulder. The other 2 brawny men were a little slow to react, and the arrows pierced through their chests. Simpson activated his protective light barrier in time to keep the flying arrows at bay. Cecil's body flickered like a ghost, dodging the incoming arrows. Ow, that hurt. Which rude bad guy came to disturb us? Louise spoke with a seductive smile. She was not nervous in the slightest. Don't let your guard down. These 5 arrows were shot by the same person. Just the fact that he was able to attack without our detection means that he's not to be underestimated. Simpson's brows furrowed. What's there to be afraid of with this level of attack? This is a blatant provocation. A brawny man whose chest had been pierced said nonchalantly. The flesh on his chest wriggled, preparing to mend his pierced chest. Simpson looked in the direction where the arrow had come from and began to rise into the air. No matter what that person's intentions are, our actions have been discovered by the other organizations. Before we draw that thing out, we have to eliminate this threat. Let's go. The other 4 Blood Tribe members nodded and began to rush in the direction where the arrow had come from. At the same time, they released their divine sense to investigate their surroundings. On the summit of a mountain over 10 kilometers away, and Lin glanced at Lu Chu. Didn't you say you could hit all 5 of them at once? Isn't this a waste of my blood? Lu Chu pursed her lips. That's just a theory. In theory, he could hit 5 of them at the same time. Actually, to be able to hit 3 was already pretty good, right? You, on the other hand, where's the Poison Lord? Where's the poison tyrant in your blood that can kill vampires upon contact? What's with the 5 lively blood breeds? They're pouncing toward us. Huh? They're not dead? And Lin faltered slightly upon hearing this. His eyesight was limited, and he couldn't see what was happening over 10 kilometers away. Lu Chu, let's find a place to hide first. Let's cast a concealment spell technique first. I want to see if my blood isn't poisonous, or if these Blood Tribe cultivators are too arrogant. And Lin was unconvinced. Thus, 5 Blood Tribe cultivators appeared in their field of vision a few seconds later. They flew through the air atop a wave of blood, and their auras surged with astonishing might. So they really weren't dead. An indescribable sense of disappointment welled up in Lin's heart, as if he had lost an extremely bad asterisk assess skill. However, right at this moment, 2 of the brawny Blood Tribe cultivators suddenly faltered. Jeff, Bude, what's wrong with you? Simpson asked immediately after noticing that something was wrong. Jeff's body trembled with a dazed expression. Leader, he didn't even get a chance to finish his sentence before he began to foam at the mouth and plummeted toward the ground. That arrow was poisoned. He had also let loose a cry of surprise. He then threw up a large mouthful of blood, and his life force quickly dissipated as he plummeted from the sky. Simpson was shocked to see this, and he immediately used his vital energy hand to catch the two of them. However, the two of them had already passed away after just a few short seconds. The three of them stared blankly at the two dead bodies, and their minds went completely blank as they temporarily lost the ability to think. Those were Blood Tribe cultivators with extremely powerful life force. Furthermore, Jeff and Bude were soul formation final stage Blood Tribe cultivators, so even if their heads were blown off, they could still regenerate. What kind of poison could kill beings with such terrifying life force in such a short time? Louise then seemed to realize something, and she looked down at her shoulder with horror etched on her face. The arrow wound there had yet to heal, which was extremely abnormal for a Blood Tribe cultivator. Ah! She couldn't help but scream before turning to Simpson and Cecil with a pleading expression. Save me. Her voice had only just fallen when she threw up a large mouthful of blood. Her body swayed slightly as her life force quickly dissipated and she plummeted from the sky. Simpson and Cecil looked at each other as chills ran down their spines. Without saying a word, they turned around and ran. They really didn't have the courage to fight such a strange enemy. The Blood Tribe cultivators were proud of their extremely powerful life force, so they weren't afraid of battle. After all, it was very difficult for them to die in a battle of equal strength. Even if they couldn't win, they could still escape. However, when they discovered that someone could kill them with a light poke, they completely lost the will to fight. Tina, you're responsible for picking up the storage rings. And Lin flew toward the two fleeing Blood Tribe cultivators on his brick after uttering this sentence. Lu Chu also flew into the air as she turned to look at Lin with an expression of shock on her face. Why is your blood so poisonous? She couldn't help but ask. She had seen Louise's shoulder, and even then, she was still poisoned to death. Just how poisonous would the blood have to be able to kill her? She didn't even dare to imagine. I don't know either, but don't worry, this blood isn't poisonous to humans. It's only known to be poisonous to the Blood Tribe and the demons of hell, and Lin replied. Lu Chu's lips twitched slightly. This poison lord's blood poison could choose its targets? How terrifying. We're close, and Lin suddenly spoke. Lu Chu raised her head to see that the Blood Tribe cultivators were less than 500 meters away from them. However, they seemed to have unleashed their blood escape technique, and their speed increased drastically as the distance between them widened again. Right at this moment, and Lin slashed toward his own arm with his evil slaying sword. Splat! Blood splattered through the air. Wings of wind. Wind sword. Bam! And Lin's speed also increased drastically as he tore through the air, creating gale force winds. So fast, Lu Chu's eyes widened in shock as she was slowed down by the gale force winds created by Lin. Not long after that, Lin arrived before the two Blood Tribe cultivators, and his sword flashed as he slashed two bloody gashes into their bodies. What the F***CK? How can he be so fast? Simpson's expression turned pale with fright. These injuries are nothing. After all, we weren't attacked by the woman with the longbow behind us. There's a time limit to the man's speed increase, and we've already shaken him off our tail. All we need to do now is pay attention to the woman's poison arrow, Cecil consoled. Simpson nodded as he committed the faces of the two people behind him to memory. He was going to exact revenge next time. He was going to make those two suffer a fate worse than death. Just as he was thinking this, Simpson suddenly felt like throwing up. Erg! He threw up a large mouthful of blood, and at the same time, he felt the vitality within his body being quickly sucked away as his flesh began to crumble. Cecil's eyes also widened in shock. He seemed to have realized something, and he looked behind him with a horrified expression. The man with the black sword had already stopped his pursuit. His long sword was stained with blood, and there was a mocking smile on his face. "So, it's you?" He looked at Lynn's injured arm, and he finally came to a realization. However, it was all too late. Cecil and Simpson's eyes rolled into the back of their heads as they frothed at the mouth, and they plummeted toward the ground, losing all signs of life. Chapter 494. Just like that, 5 extremely powerful blood tribe cultivators were poisoned to death by Lynn's blood. Even though Lu Chu had witnessed this with her own eyes, she was still struck by a sense of surrealism. And Lin picked up the 2 storage rings and hummed a tune as he made his way back. "And Lin, I feel like if we develop your blood and release it into the dark marshlands battlefield, we'll be able to wipe out the entire blood tribe in a matter of minutes." Lu Chu exclaimed excitedly, and Lin chuckled. "Are you trying to suck my blood dry?" Lu Chu shook her head with a serious expression. "No, I'm saying that if we analyze the properties of your blood and see what it is that is so lethal to the blood tribe, we might be able to develop chemical weapons that are extremely lethal to the blood tribe." And Lin rolled his eyes. "You're not the first person to think that way. Back then, there really were people who extracted my blood for research, but they didn't discover anything. Let's not talk about this for now. Let's split the spoils of war." At this moment, Tina also flew over with the 3 storage rings from the blood tribe cultivators. There were a total of 5 storage rings, and Lu Chu received 2 storage rings this time, while Lin received 3 storage rings. Tina stood beside Lin with curiosity and anticipation on her face. And Lin began to refine the 3 storage rings and discovered many pleasant surprises. There were 2,100,000 vital stones, 16 spirit tools, over 30 spirit pills, and 2 immortal fruits. After using his divine inspection technique, he discovered that this was a 7th-rank immortal fruit, the blood dragon fruit. It was a super nourishing fruit that could replenish one's blood essence in an extremely short amount of time, and it was extremely useful for those who had lost too much blood. Aside from that, there were 52 white realm essence crystals, 7 green realm essence crystals, and 2 blue realm essence crystals. Unfortunately, there were still no golden realm essence crystals. It appeared that these crystals were extremely rare in the ancient Tai Chu realm. The rest of the storage rings were just a bunch of random materials, and Lin didn't have the time to organize them, so he set them aside for now. Lu Chu counted the items in her storage ring with a joyful expression, and a devilish smile appeared on her face from time to time as she murmured to herself, "Ha, so much more money. As expected, this is heaven to me." And Lin didn't know whether he should be happy or worried about teaming up with Lu Chu, but he had a feeling that this woman had already gone berserk. He rummaged through the items in the 3 storage rings in boredom, and he suddenly discovered a black beast skin drawing. This was found in Simpson's storage ring. That person seemed to be the leader of the 5 blood tribe cultivators, so Lin paid more attention to his storage ring. He took out the animal skin map and looked at it curiously. The picture was a little strange. It was a picture of a lake in the mountains. There was a monster with a white body, long hair, and 4 limbs on the ground. It was looking up at the sky with its pitch-black eyes. Its limbs and body were all covered in small red eyes, and those with trypophobia would be completely unbearable. Lu Chu also poked her head over to look at the image. The lake and the mountain in this picture seemed to be from the White Lake realm. The 2 of them fell silent before looking at each other. A second later, the 2 of them flew toward the White Tiger realm without uttering a single word. "This monster will definitely drop some good equipment," and Lin exclaimed with excitement. Lu Chu nodded. Perhaps the 5 blood tribe cultivators came to the edge of the White Lake for that monster. "Let's look through the storage rings to see if there's any information," and Lin continued. "All right." Lu Chu began to rummage through the storage rings. Soon, the 2 of them arrived at the edge of the White Lake. The lake water wasn't clear. Instead, it was a little murky, and visibility was only about a dozen meters. There were all sorts of spell formations left behind by the blood tribe cultivators, most likely set up in advance to deal with the monster at the bottom of the lake. "Oh, I've got it. There's information about the monster at the bottom of the lake." Lu Chu pulled out a golden page from her storage ring. There were 3 spell formations on it. She looked at the crimson words on the golden page and read slowly. In order to kill the thousand-eyed demonic dragon of the White Lake, I prepared a great explosion formation, a spirit destruction formation, and a blood-binding formation. And Lin's face convulsed as he looked at the spell formation in his hand. How does the monster at the bottom of the lake look like a dragon? There's nothing wrong with the term thousand-eyed. Lu Chu brought the golden page to the 3 spell formations on the ground and compared them carefully before nodding. These are the 3 spell formations. Lin, so the Blood Tribe is being considerate enough to give us equipment and set up spell formations to help us fight the boss? Thank God. Lu Chu stuck out her tongue with a mischievous smile. The golden page says that the monster at the bottom of the lake was discovered by the last group of Blood Tribe cultivators 500 years ago. However, they weren't well prepared at the time, and almost all of them were wiped out. Now that they've returned, they're still unwilling to give up. After some analysis, they prepared 3 spell formations that are specifically designed to kill the monster at the bottom of the lake. The golden page says that the thousand-eyed demonic dragon has 2 forms, which are a human and a dragon. It's extremely fast, so don't let it get close to you. Otherwise, something unimaginable will happen. The golden page also says that we should use the great explosion formation to wound the monster at the bottom of the lake before luring it out. After that, we should use the blood-binding formation to trap the demonic dragon, then use the spirit destruction formation to kill the demonic dragon. Lu Chu glanced at Lin as she read to the end, as if asking for his opinion. Lin thought about it for a moment before nodding. We could try this method. I'll activate the spell formations, and Tina will be by my side, ready to engage at a moment's notice. Lu Chu, you stay as far away from the center of the battle as possible and be responsible for sniping. Lu Chu didn't have any objections. Tina had been slacking off for a long time, and her super holy sword was itching for battle as well. Lu Chu began to open up some distance before finding a sniping spot with a good vantage point. Lin arrived at the great explosion formation first. The veined patterns on this formation extended all the way to the bottom of the lake, and it was extremely massive. The aura emanating from the formation seemed to be directed toward the center of the lake. Great explosion formation, explode. Vital energy surged violently as he roared, and the veined patterns on the ground began to glow with a bright red light. The waters of the lake began to churn as a fearsome amount of energy accumulated at the bottom of the lake. Boom! An earth-shattering boom erupted, and the earth tremored violently in that instant. The surface of the lake, which was several kilometers wide, suddenly rose into the air as the energy from the explosion turned the entire surface of the lake crimson. Scorching heat waves swept through the surroundings as a series of terrifying cracks appeared on the ground. Gasp! A sharp screeching sound erupted from the bottom of the lake, and a figure appeared at the center of the lake. It was around 10 feet tall, and its 4 limbs dangled from the ground. Countless crimson eyes glowed with a peculiar light as they revolved around its pristine white body. Its head was that of a human, and its inky black eyes were staring intently at Lin. A chill ran down Lin's spine as he was stared at by this creature. He knew that the creature standing before him was none other than the monster of the White Lake, the thousand-eyed demonic dragon. F***CK. Didn't we agree to use the great explosion formation to lure the thousand-eyed demonic dragon out? I did see it, but what about its injuries? I'll be fine if I just take a look at its injuries. But what's with its smooth skin? A feeling like he had been screwed over began to spread through Lin's heart. However, he didn't have any time to hesitate. He immediately ran toward the blood-binding formation and activated it. At this moment, all of the thousand-eyed demonic dragon's eyes turned toward Lin. Chapter 495. What was it like to be stared at by over 1,000 peculiar eyes? Lin accidentally made eye contact with them, upon which he was immediately struck by a sense of dizziness and weakness, as if he had been stabbed by over 1,000 silver needles. However, he still managed to rush over to the blood-binding formation before circulating his vital energy in a frenzy to activate the formation. The thousand-eyed demonic dragon's body flashed as it transformed into a white afterimage, moving at a frighteningly fast speed. Blood-binding formation, activate! And Lin stomped his foot and activated the formation to its fullest extent. Vital energy surged, and several hundred crimson arms materialized from within the formation before pouncing toward the thousand-eyed demonic dragon like venomous snakes. The thousand-eyed demonic dragon's movement techniques were extremely ghostly, but it was unable to defend against so many arms. Soon, its body was bound tightly by the crimson arms, and it was unable to do anything else. And Lin's eyes lit up upon seeing this. This formation did not disappoint him. He didn't waste any more time and immediately rushed over to the third formation before activating it with all his might. Spirit-breaking formation, activate! The formation beneath his feet quickly activated as a bright red light erupted forth. Immediately afterward, a red-robed divine spirit appeared behind Enlin. It made a strange hand seal with both hands as violent spiritual power converged toward its hands. Enlin glanced at the divine spirit behind him. He didn't even need to guess to know that this was a blood tribe divine spirit. Using the power of the blood tribe to kill a boss felt a little strange. However, there was no way to stop now. He could only continue. Spirit-breaking seal. A vast and majestic voice rang out from behind him. The red-robed divine spirit made a hand seal with both hands before pushing it toward the thousand-eyed demonic dragon. An ancient crimson seal grew larger and larger before crashing into the thousand-eyed demonic dragon's body with a peculiar power that struck fear into one's soul. Boom! The ancient seal's impact enshrouded the demonic dragon in crimson energy, and it was transformed into a pillar of blood that shot into the sky. The fearsome explosion of energy caused the water in the lake to churn and evaporate. A series of bloody gashes appeared on the thousand-eyed demonic dragon's body as the spirit-breaking formation tore at its consciousness. Its four limbs began to wrap around its body, and its body slowly shrank into a spherical shape. And Lin stared at the thousand-eyed demonic dragon with a perplexed expression. What was going on? Before he could react, the white ball began to spread outward like an explosion. Rumble! A deafening explosion resounded. The red energy and the tentacles were all shattered by the terrifying energy. A white salamander appeared in front of Lin, spreading its snow-like wings and hovering in the air. It was only about 6 meters long, but its terrifying aura made people's hearts palpitate. White Dragon's pure white body suddenly split open. Numerous scarlet eyes appeared on the surface of his skin. These eyes stared at Enlin and trembled slightly. It was an extremely terrifying sight. Enlin could sense a very special power emanating from the white dragon's body. This power was extremely powerful, but couldn't be categorized by their current cultivation basis. This was a type of ethereal and extremely detestable power. This was most likely the second form of the thousand-eyed demonic dragon. From this, the blood tribe's information was quite useful. However, Enlin really didn't understand where the blood tribe was getting their confidence from. Why did they think they could kill this demonic dragon with their 3 spell formations? The 3 spell formations had only forced the thousand-eyed demonic dragon to reveal its second form. What was he supposed to do next? Speaking of which, couldn't the blood tribe be more reliable? Did they think they could be so confident just because they had more blood? The thousand-eyed demonic dragon crouched down slightly, and a terrifying power began to build up in its body. It was clearly ready to attack. Right at this moment, a streak of pink light tore through the air toward the thousand-eyed demonic dragon with boundless killing intent. This was Lu Chuchu's arrow, which was a killing technique that she had prepared in advance. The arrow was imbued with terrifying power, and it instantly tore the thousand-eyed demonic dragon's body in half. It was so fast that the thousand-eyed demonic dragon had no time to react. Insta-kill. Enlin was astonished. Enlin felt like he had just stabbed a flag into the ground. Before he even had a chance to finish his sentence, the 2 halves of the thousand-eyed demonic dragon wriggled in the air before transforming into 2 smaller thousand-eyed demonic dragons. this kind of disgusting power was really annoying. Whoosh! The 2,000-eyed demonic dragons transformed into white afterimages as they pounced toward Lin. Tina let loose a cold cry as her heart lotus ice sword slashed through the air in a blue crescent arc. The temperature in the area within a radius of over 1,000 feet plummeted, and extremely frosty energy fluctuations swept toward the 2,000-eyed demonic dragons before clashing with them. The 2,000-eyed demonic dragons faltered momentarily. Right at this moment, Lin's sword had already slashed toward one of the 1,000-eyed demonic dragons like a bolt of lightning. Whoosh! The black sword blade tore through the 1,000-eyed demonic dragon's white body, but there was no blood splattering through the air. He could only see white flesh wriggling incessantly within the wound, and there weren't even any organs. It was as if he had sliced a ball of energy in half, but this ball of energy was extremely powerful and was able to chase after him. How the F***CK was he supposed to fight this? Sure enough, the body that had been sliced in half by Lin split again into two smaller 1,000-eyed demonic dragons, which he referred to as Little 3 demonic dragons. The larger 1,000-eyed demonic dragon had split into two smaller 1,000-eyed demonic dragons, and now they had split into one Little 2 demonic dragon and two Little 3 demonic dragons. Tina and the Little 2 demonic dragon were locked in battle, and she didn't dare to attack the 1,000-eyed demonic dragon anymore after discovering that Lin was giving the 1,000-eyed demonic dragon a free ride. Instead, she used the power of extreme frost within her heart lotus ice sword to keep the 1,000-eyed demonic dragon at bay, while casting a pleading gaze toward Lin. And Lin discovered that these two Little 3 demonic dragons were on par with the 1,000-eyed demonic dragon in terms of speed and power, and he was extremely frustrated. If things continued like this, he would be screwed sooner or later. Lu Chu stood on a high vantage point in the distance as she observed the battle unfolding before her eyes, but she was hesitant to strike. She really couldn't do anything. Attacking without careful thought would only make things more difficult for her teammates. She had to think of a way to break out of this predicament and act according to the situation, and Lin's sword techniques were extremely powerful, and each one of them was a lethal strike. However, he didn't even dare to use his sword techniques in the face of these dragons. He was afraid that he would slice Little 3 into two Little 4s, F***CK off. He unleashed his mountain-quaking lightning fist to knock one of the 1,000-eyed demonic dragons flying. However, the other 1,000-eyed demonic dragon flashed before him like a ghost, and a peculiar light flashed through its inky black eyes. Plunder! A hellish murmur sounded in front of Lin. An invisible ripple enshrouded Lin's body, and the 1,000-eyed demonic dragon's crimson eyes suddenly closed, as if it had fallen into a deep slumber. It was also in that instant that Lin felt as if he had lost something. His heart jolted with shock, and he immediately unleashed his mountain-quaking lightning fist toward the demonic dragon. Lightning manipulation fist with his left hand and golden fist with his right. The golden fist shot forth, and the 1,000-eyed demonic dragon transformed into a series of afterimages as it hurtled back in retreat, evading the golden fist. And Lin was rooted to the spot. He wasn't frightened by the 1,000-eyed demonic dragon's speed. Instead, he was frightened by himself. Where's my lightning manipulation technique? Lightning manipulation technique. He activated his cultivation method, and his fingertips moved slightly as he yelled. However, his fingertips didn't react in the slightest. At the same time, the 1,000-eyed demonic dragon that had just closed in on Lin suddenly flew into the air. Lightning manipulation technique. A sinister and hoarse dragon's roar sounded as blue lightning surged in the sky, and a terrifying lightning might continue to accumulate. And Lin's mouth gaped open in shock as he looked up at the scenes unfolding in the sky. He finally understood what the 1,000-eyed demonic dragon meant by plunder. It was F***King plundering his spell technique. How could it possess such a powerful ability? What the hell was this 1,000-eyed demonic dragon? Chapter 496. The bolts of lightning in the sky transformed into countless silver snakes that hurtled toward Lin. and Lin spread open his wings of wind and evaded the countless bolts of lightning. These bolts of lightning were extremely powerful, and each and every one of them was able to blast a massive crater into the ground. Thankfully, these bolts of lightning weren't as powerful as Golden Void lightning. Otherwise, he would have been in dire straits. One of the three demonic dragons was drawing lightning in the sky, while the other one was chasing and Lin relentlessly. Its white dragon claws slashed through the air, and the sound of air being torn apart sounded like the wails of a wailing ghost. The 2,000-eyed demonic dragons worked extremely well together, and Lin was unable to find an opportunity to retaliate. Divine technique, wind explosive arrow. In the distance, a white arrow projection flashed through the air before transforming into a thick pillar of white light, imbued with extremely powerful wind pressure and explosive power. The pillar of light struck the 1,000-eyed demonic dragon in the sky with a resounding boom. The wind pressure exploded upon every inch of the 1,000-eyed demonic dragon's skin. In that instant, it felt as if its body had been flattened by some kind of fearsome power, and its body was blasted back several hundred meters before tumbling to the ground with a resounding boom. In that instant, Lin came to a realization. He couldn't use sharp weapons to slice open the 1,000-eyed demonic dragon. So could he use a type of power that encompassed the entire body of the demonic dragon to kill it? Just as he was thinking this, the divine flame bead had already appeared in his palm. A series of golden flaming dragons revolved around the crimson bead, exuding an extremely fearsome power. At this moment, the smaller dragon that had been struck by the wind explosive arrow had already crawled up from the ground. It was no longer looking at Lin. Instead, it was looking toward a certain direction in the distance, as an extremely dangerous aura emanated from its body. And Lin's heart jolted upon seeing this. He knew that Lu Chu-Chu had been targeted. Right at this moment, the two smaller dragons pounced toward Lu Chu-Chu at the same time. Ah! Tina's scream also sounded from afar, and Lin could see the 1,000-eyed demonic dragon approaching Tina and exuding an invisible ripple. Plunder! And Lin immediately released Gundam 1 and Gundam 2 upon seeing this. Go help Tina. With that, he spread his wings of the wind and pounced towards the two little dragons. Lu Chu-Chu's reactions were extremely quick. She knew that she couldn't allow the 1,000-eyed demonic dragon to get close to her, so she continued to retreat. At the same time, she unleashed a series of massive water dragons from her longbow toward the 1,000-eyed demonic dragon. A few breaths later, Lin had also arrived beside one of the three demonic dragons. Boundless yellow-white flames erupted from the divine flame bead and enveloped the dragon within. With the help of the high-grade immortal tool, the divine flame bead, he was able to circulate the divine flame within his body to the maximum. Rumble! The yellow-white flames instantly enveloped the space within a radius of over 1,000 feet, engulfing and melting everything within it. From afar, it looked as if a small sun had suddenly appeared on the ground, emitting boundless light and heat. Hiss! The 1,000-eyed demonic dragon roared in pain and retreated relentlessly in an attempt to escape from the range of the flames. And Lin's eyes lit up. He knew that his attack was working, so he wasn't going to let it off the hook again. However, right at this moment, Tina's scream erupted from nearby. And Lin thought that something had happened to Tina, and he immediately turned around. He was then greeted by the sight of Tina staring at the two Gundams with a dumbstruck expression, as if she was at a complete loss for what to do. He blinked as he turned to look at the two Gundams, upon which he drew a sharp intake of breath. The two Gundams stood on the ground with light swords in their hands in a majestic manner. In front of them was the shattered body of the 1,000-eyed demonic dragon. That's right, the 1,000-eyed demonic dragon had been sliced into several dozen pieces by the two Gundams. And Lin's lips twitched uncontrollably. Should he praise the two Gundams for their sword techniques? F***CK. With the power of the two Gundams, it was clear that the 1,000-eyed demonic dragon had intentionally allowed itself to be sliced apart. And Lin clasped his face in his hands. He should have told the two Gundams not to attack with sharp weapons, But it was all too late now. Sure enough, the chunks of flesh on the ground began to squirm. They first transformed into white balls before slowly transforming into miniature versions of the thousand-eyed demonic dragon. Great holy flame, demonic star flame, setting moon flame, heavenly void flame. And Lin held the divine flame bead in his hand as he attacked the chunks of flesh on the ground without any hesitation. 4 flaming dragons materialized from different divine flames roared as they pounced toward the thousand-eyed demonic dragon's body. The air within a radius of over 10,000 feet began to warp and shimmer. Just as the 4 flaming dragons pounced toward the thousand-eyed demonic dragon's body, the 3 Gundams that had pounced toward Lu Chu had already arrived before the dragon's remains. All of the crimson eyes on their bodies suddenly shattered, immediately following which a red barrier of light enshrouded an area with a radius of several hundred feet. Boom! The explosion of flames created a shockwave that caused the earth to crack open and the mountains to tremor violently. Within the boundless sea of flames, the red barrier of light stood firm and released an extremely powerful burst of power that completely dispelled the flames. Tina, Gundam 1, and Gundam 2 had already arrived beside Lin, ready to retreat at a moment's notice. The 3 Gundams that had shattered their crimson eyes suddenly disintegrated into a pool of white liquid that splattered onto the ground, completely devoid of vitality. And Lin came to a realization upon seeing this. So it's unable to maintain its vitality after its eyes are shattered. Looks like the thousand-eyed demonic dragon's true form is an eye. Immediately afterward, his heart thumped in his chest. It's willing to sacrifice a quarter of its eyes to protect its body. What does that mean? His voice had only just fallen when the balls of light transformed into miniature thousand-eyed demonic dragons. There were 50 to 60 of them at a glance. A terrifying power radiated forth in all directions, and the crimson eyes seemed to be imbued with a terrifying power that threatened to engulf all things. And Lin felt like this type of splitting didn't follow the law of conservation of energy at all. If one were to split into 2, they would at least be a lot weaker. However, these dragons were split into several dozen, and each one of them was only around 30% weaker than before. As such, the combined power of several dozen dragons was far too terrifying at the same time behind a mountain on the border of the White Lake realm. There were 2 beings with concealed auras surveying the battle taking place near the White Lake. A semi-transparent jellyfish that was about half the size of a grown man hovered in the air with white lightning flashing on its tentacles. Hongdo, is that the Lin you were talking about? A burly rock golem with flames burning on its chest nodded with astonishment on its face. There's no mistaking it. He's Lin. Who would have thought that he would also be in the ancient Tai Chu realm? And who would have thought that he would progress from the spirit-nurturing initial stage to the soul-formation intermediate stage in just over a year after the Tao Exchange Conference of the 4 Powers? He's definitely a freak. But he's already in a difficult battle. The jellyfish chuckled. The Celestial Court is also our ally. Should we help them? Hong Do blinked his flaming eyes as he recalled the times when he was bullied by Lin, and a smile suddenly appeared on his face. Help! It would be inexcusable if we don't help each other when we're from the same hometown. When they're about to be finished, we'll make our appearance and become their saviors, an existence that they need to look up to. When that time comes, my heroism will be deeply engraved into their minds. A smug smile appeared on Hong Do's face as his heart was filled with anticipation. Chapter 497. Tina stood on Lin's shoulder and gripped tightly onto his hair with a hint of shock and horror in her eyes. What kind of monster is this dragon? It's way too terrifying. Even my holy light power was stolen by it. Wah, I don't even have my holy light anymore. What kind of demonic being am I? Tina was soon overcome by grief, and she began to sob uncontrollably. And Lin heaved a forlorn sigh. I told you to calm down. My lightning manipulation technique was also stolen by this demonic dragon. Do you think I have anything to complain about? Just as they were speaking, The 40 miniature thousand-eyed demonic dragons began to emanate holy light as an even more powerful aura began to emanate from their bodies. Lin, are we still going to fight? Lu Chu transmitted her voice from afar. Yes, all of our spell techniques have been stolen. We can't let these demonic dragons take advantage of us. And Lin gritted his teeth. Lu Chu got it. The idiotic Gundams received Lin's instructions, and they put away their light swords in order to attack with fire. After stealing Lin's lightning manipulation technique, the miniature thousand-eyed demonic dragon appeared at the forefront of the 40 miniature demonic dragons, as if it were a general leading an army. Unfortunately, the strategy of capturing the ringleader first couldn't be used here. If a third party fell, tens of thousands of substitutes would rush in to replace them. All Lin could do was burn all of them to death. Right at this moment, the miniature thousand-eyed demonic dragon crouched down, and all of its previously closed eyes opened. Its crimson eyes became even more vibrant, as if it had undergone some kind of transformation. Kacha, the lightning revolving around the miniature thousand-eyed demonic dragon's body, became crimson lightning as it exuded an even more fearsome power. And Lin's pupils contracted slightly. It evolved? He knew that the blue lightning had been modified by the thousand-eyed dragon using his lightning manipulation technique. But this crimson lightning, which was even more terrifying, had been fused with the thousand-eyed dragon's power, thereby making it even more powerful. And Lin couldn't help but turn toward the miniature thousand-eyed demonic dragons. Their eyes were closed after absorbing the power of Tina's holy light. In other words, when they opened their eyes again, they would be even more awesome. We can't wait any longer. Let's attack together. And Lin held the divine flame bead in his hand as he charged toward the dozens of miniature thousand-eyed dragons. The 3,000-eyed dragon held the 30-meter-long red thunderbolt in its hand and thrust it at Lin. Lin used the lightning manipulation technique out of habit, but he immediately realized that he no longer had that ability. He hurriedly dodged to the side, but the speed of lightning was not that easy to dodge. By the time he reacted, it was already too late. The red lightning instantly pierced through his shoulder. A numbing and tearing sensation immediately spread throughout his body, causing him to tremble uncontrollably. This feeling was so wonderful. It had been too long since he had been struck by lightning so brutally. This kind of pain actually made him feel a little emotional. It was also at this moment that the 40 miniature thousand-eyed demonic dragons glowed with holy light, and they opened their mouths as a terrifying amount of energy converged toward them. Boom, boom, boom. The demonic dragons unleashed a series of devastating blasts of holy light toward Lin and the others. Each and every one of these blasts was comparable to a full force attack from a soul formation intermediate stage cultivator. With so many blasts of holy light, the earth-shattering power unleashed by them struck everyone with a sense of asphyxiation. And Lin immediately expanded his black brick to shield himself, and Tina also hid behind him in fear. Violent explosions of holy light then inundated the area within a radius of over a kilometer. The poor Gundams didn't have enough time to evade and were inundated by the blasts of holy light. Jine and Lin, they're simply too powerful. We can't even get close to them. Tina stood on Lin's shoulder with a fearful expression on her face. The ferocious holy light cannon fire seemed to be relentless as it crashed down upon the brick. With each and every strike, Lin's body would be pushed back by the immense force emanating from the brick. Lin had also been given a fright by the thousand-eyed demonic dragon's power. They were insanely powerful. Was he going to have to unleash his origin energy of the netherworld again after he had just recovered from his injuries? Just as Lin was hesitating, a burst of hearty laughter suddenly erupted from the sky. Ha ha! Lin, you're still so useless. Let me Hongdo save you. A muscular figure flew toward them atop a monstrous cloud of flames. Lin's mouth gaped open as he looked at the rock golem. My lover is a peerless hero, and one day he'll come to me atop a rainbow cloud. Hongdo's muscular rock body burned with crimson flames, and he looked extremely mighty as he charged toward the miniature dragons. Linging, I'll leave those minions to you. Easy. A semi-transparent jellyfish flew through the air like a gentle breeze. It appeared to be moving very slowly, but it was actually extremely fast as it arrived above the miniature thousand-eyed demonic dragons. Its tentacles spread open like a net, instantly encompassing an area with a radius of over a kilometer, encompassing all of the miniature thousand-eyed demonic dragons. Divine lightning hell. White divine lightning exploded from its tentacles, transforming into countless silver snakes that surged through the air, creating an extremely terrifying lightning hell that enshrouded all of the living beings down below. Haha die, you little sh*t. Let me teach you a lesson. Hong Do charged toward the miniature dragons atop a fiery cloud of flames before crashing his fist down upon them with unimaginable force. Boom! Shockwaves swept forth for several hundred meters. The miniature dragon's body caved in from Hong Do's fist, and it plummeted to the ground like a cannonball. Ha ha ha! How about Grandpa Do's fists? I'll let you have your fill. Hong Do chortled as his crimson, flaming fists rained down upon the miniature dragons, causing the ground to tremor violently. Right at this moment, the jellyfish suddenly let loose a wail of anguish. Linging, are you all right? Hong Do turned toward the jellyfish with a nervous expression. The countless bolts of white lightning suddenly changed directions and crashed toward the jellyfish in the sky. Rumble! The jellyfish was completely dumbstruck by its own lightning, and it fled into the distance with all its might. And Lin's lips twitched upon seeing this. This was most likely the fault of his lightning manipulation technique. Right at this moment, the little three-demonic dragon took advantage of this opening to appear before Hong Do, and a peculiar ripple emanated from its inky black eyes in the blink of an eye. Plunder! Hong Do felt as if he had lost something in that instant. Astonishment welled up in his heart, and he launched a fist toward the miniature dragons without any hesitation. The miniature dragons seemed to have anticipated this, and its body transformed into a series of white afterimages as it retreated in retreat. The countless eyes on its body closed, as if it was digesting something. At the same time, its body was enveloped by crimson flames, from which terrifying heat waves proliferated outward in all directions. Hong Do's eyes widened as he stared at the miniature dragons. This was a familiar power, a power that it was most proud of. It looked down at its chest to find that it was completely devoid of any color, as if it were a useless rock. My life force is gone? Hong Do's mouth gaped open, and his eyes glazed over, as if he were a rock that had lost its dreams and beliefs. Bam! Before he knew it, the miniature dragons had already struck Hong Do's body with their white dragon claws, and Hong Do was instantly slammed into the ground. It then clenched its claws into fists, from which countless crimson, flaming fists rained down upon Hong Do. Flames swept through the ground, causing the ground to tremor violently, just like what Hong Do had done to it in the past. Hong Do lay on the ground, completely devoid of any desire to retaliate. Even the power that he was most proud of was gone. So what was the point of retaliating? It was better to just be a useless rock. Chapter 498. Just as the jellyfish by the name of Ling Ying was fleeing frantically and Hong Do was beginning to doubt his own life, a golden arrow hurtled through the air like the light of dawn, piercing through the darkness, illuminating heaven and earth. Everyone could only see a boundless golden light. Divine technique, divine, evil-vanquishing arrow. The golden arrow hurtled toward the dozens of miniature thousand-eyed demonic dragons before splitting into 10 into 100, and 100 into 1,000. In the end, the countless golden arrows formed a massive golden seal in the air. Boom! A terrifying sealing force crashed down upon the bodies of the thousand-eyed demonic dragons. And Lin and Tina also understood what was going on at this moment, and they immediately charged toward the miniature dragons. Lu Chu had created an extremely good opportunity for them. These miniature dragons, which were imbued with the power of holy light, posed the greatest threat, and they had to take this opportunity to eliminate them. Tina's aura soared to the very peak as she wielded her Heart Lotus Ice Sword. She let loose a delicate cry as she slashed her long sword toward the miniature dragons. Blue ripples proliferated outward for over a kilometer, and thousands of blue lotus flowers blossomed on the ground below them. The power of holy light erupted from the miniature dragons that had been suppressed by the divine, evil-vanquishing arrow. Just as they were about to struggle free, the blue lotus flowers beneath their feet unleashed a power that was powerful enough to freeze the space around them. Enlin hovered the divine flame bead before him as he activated his 4 divine flames to their maximal extent. Great Holy Flame, appear. A scintillating sun appeared above the heads of the miniature thousand-eyed demonic dragons. Demonic Star Flame, appear. The sky transformed into a sea of purple flames with specks of dazzling starlight imbued within them. Setting Moon Flame, Heavenly Void Flame. On the ground below, the blue flames formed a terrifying wave that swept toward the thousand-eyed demonic dragons with a power that could freeze and melt all living beings. The invisible Heavenly Void Flame engulfed the entire space with the power to annihilate all things. Sea of Divine Flames, activate. A crimson symbol appeared on the back of Enlin's hand, which glowed with a brilliant light and resonated with the divine flame bead in his hand. The purple flames enshrouded the white starlight, fell toward the ground like a meteorite. The sun began to spew out boundless golden flames, scorching all living beings in the area in a frenzy. The dark blue flames set off monstrous waves, like a flood or a ferocious beast, unstoppable. The invisible void flame energy was everywhere, burning every inch of the demonic dragon's skin. The entire sky, earth, sun, moon, and void had transformed into a purgatory furnace, leaving no place for the miniature thousand-eyed demonic dragons to escape. Within the divine flame bead, a golden flaming dragon roared as it was drawn into the sea of flames of 4 spirits. It was like the monarch of all flames as it devoured the thousand-eyed demonic dragons in a frenzy. The severely injured jellyfish turned his head to look at the sea of 4 divine flames, which was powerful enough to incinerate all living things, and was startled. Is this a spell technique Enlin used? Isn't this too King scary? The terrifying power of the flames melted the ground in a radius of several kilometers, and even the thousand-eyed demonic dragon was unable to withstand the destructive power of the flames. Its holy light began to shatter, and its body was scorched by the flames as its eyes began to crack open. Not long after, the flames began to disperse. There was no longer any trace of the thousand-eyed demonic dragon on the ground. It had clearly been completely engulfed by the terrifying flames. Enlin half knelt to the ground with an exhausted expression, and there was a fine sheen of sweat on his forehead. He had unleashed the sea of 4 divine flames with all his might, and he had almost completely depleted all of his vital energy. Giant Enlin, I can feel my power of holy light returning. Tina flew toward Enlin with excitement on her face as she waved her glowing little hands. Enlin heaved a sigh of relief upon hearing this before turning toward another direction with a cold expression. Now, it's time to take back my lightning manipulation technique. At this moment, the miniature thousand-eyed demonic dragon sensed that something was amiss, and it had already stopped attacking Hongdo. Hongdo lay half dead in the crater with crimson lava flowing all over his body, but the scorching lava was unable to warm his cold and dejected heart. The miniature thousand-eyed demonic dragon turned toward Enlin, and its voice was filled with resentment and hatred. You destroyed my body, Dai. Crimson lightning flashed, and the miniature thousand-eyed demonic dragon closed in on Enlin at an extremely terrifying speed. Enlin had just unleashed the sea of 4 divine flames, and his body was still completely depleted. The blood spirit pill he had just swallowed hadn't fully taken effect, so he was given a massive fright by the miniature thousand-eyed demonic dragon's fearless attack. Tina positioned herself in front of him, and her blue longsword slashed through the air with an extremely powerful burst of glacial sword intent that swept toward the thousand-eyed demonic dragon, leaving a vast expanse of white frost in its wake. To her surprise, the miniature thousand-eyed demonic dragon made no attempt to evade. The cracks on its pristine white skin suddenly split open, revealing countless crimson eyes. At the same time, extremely scorching crimson flames erupted from its body, which formed a crimson suit of armor around its body. The sword intent unleashed by Tina's slash was already showing signs of melting before it had even come into contact with the flaming armor, thereby illustrating just how terrifyingly hot the armor was. The sword's strike collided with the armor, and it was as if an explosion of ice and fire had erupted, painting heaven and earth in a crimson blue hue. A bolt of crimson lightning suddenly pierced through the explosion before hurtling toward Tina. Tina was caught off guard, and she could only raise her long sword to defend herself. Immediately afterward, she felt an extremely powerful bolt of lightning hurtling toward her, tearing at her body. She let loose a pained cry as her body plummeted toward the ground. At this moment, the white figure had already passed by Tina and appeared before Lin with greed and bloodthirst in its eyes. Plunder. A terrifying ripple began to proliferate outward, and Lin's lips curled up into a faint smile. He was holding the vermilion bird mirror in his hand. The vermilion bird mirror had a special ability, which was that it could reflect an enemy's spell technique once after charging. A ripple enshrouded Lin's body before slowly transforming into a semi-transparent mirror. The thousand-eyed demonic dragon faltered slightly at the sight of itself in the mirror. At this moment, the mysterious ripple crashed into the mirror before suddenly retracting itself. Whoosh! And Lin was suddenly struck by a peculiar feeling. He could sense four completely different types of power. One was pure and yang, imbued with dazzling divine might. One was explosive like fire. One was capable of splitting all things, and one was like a bottomless black hole that was filled with greed and engulfment. He felt like the first type of power was most likely his lightning manipulation technique. The second was most likely Hongdo's power. The third was most likely the thousand-eyed demonic dragon's power. And the fourth, could it be the power of plunder? His original intention was to take back his lightning manipulation technique. But when he sensed the fourth power, he was very curious as to why he chose this miraculous power. Reflecting the thousand-eyed demonic dragon's plunder technique to plunder the thousand-eyed demonic dragon's power of plunder. For some reason, he felt like this was very exciting. In the blink of an eye, the plunder ritual had already been completed in the instant that the ripples of light rebounded from his body. A rare, dumbstruck expression appeared on the thousand-eyed demonic dragon's face. It felt like it had lost something. Ding dong. Detected that host has come into contact with the absolute beginning body of Essence Doppelganger. Now assigning the following special mission. Completely destroy the absolute beginning body of Essence Doppelganger. Mission success. You will receive the Spiritual Cultivation Series, Divine Plunder Technique. Mission failure. No punishment. The mirror shattered, and the thousand-eyed demonic dragon was greeted by the sight of Lin standing before it with an indescribable smile on his face. The image of an eye constructed from golden lines suddenly appeared on Lin's forehead. Immediately afterward, invisible ripples began to proliferate outward, fusing with the great Tao of heaven and earth. Plunder. Chapter 499. Golden ripples spread out in all directions, instantly enveloping the 3,000-eyed demonic dragon. The 3,000-eyed demonic dragon was all too familiar with this energy. However, it discovered that this energy was a little different because the ripples were actually golden. Then, it felt as if it had lost something. For the first time, a look of horror appeared on the small, three-eyed demonic dragon's face, and it let out a roar before rapidly retreating. And Lin had already used his plunder technique to steal away the three-eyed demonic dragon's ability to split all living things. He pulled out his evil-slaying sword again as a faint smile appeared on his face. Then, Let me see if you'll turn into 4 demonic dragons after I slice you in half. Second tier of wind spirit, wings of wind. 6 strikes of the war god, wind sword. And Lin's speed was elevated explosively under the effects of the double acceleration spell technique, and he rapidly closed in on the fleeing 3,000-eyed demonic dragon. Evildoer, where do you think you're going? Eat my sword. And Lin raised his evil-slaying sword high into the air, upon which streaks of white wind revolved around the sword projection before crashing down upon the small, 3,000-eyed demonic dragon with an extremely sharp might. Hwah! The small 3,000-eyed demonic dragon was sliced in half by the evil-slaying sword, and its body plummeted to the ground. There was no blood splattering. It was as if a large lump of flour had been chopped into 2. The 2 lumps of white flesh wriggled and tried to divide, but no matter how hard they tried, they couldn't divide into new organs. The 1,000-eyed demonic dragon's eyes followed in Lin's gaze, and its eyes were filled with shock and confusion. The power of plunder was an inherent source of power, yet this man was able to steal it and use it. What kind of monster was he? And Lin chuckled coldly as he made his way toward the 1,000-eyed demonic dragon. He didn't waste any time with words as he unleashed his 4 divine flames to engulf the 1,000-eyed demonic dragon and began to roast it in a frenzy. The 1,000-eyed demonic dragon howled as its crimson eyes began to crack open and its body began to tremble. The 4 divine fires continued to burn until the last bit of energy in Lin's body had been sucked dry. Only then did the fire stop. At this moment, the 1,000-eyed demonic dragon on the ground had already been reduced to charcoal with no chance of resurrection. Invisible ripples proliferated outward, and Lin could sense that he seemed to be able to unleash his lightning manipulation technique again. However, the power that he had obtained from the 1,000-eyed demonic dragon was slowly dissipating. The crimson flames in Hong Do's chest were also reignited by the return of his power, and his body was filled with life force that he hadn't felt in a long time. Ding dong! Congratulations on completing the quest. You will now receive the divine plunder technique. The golden eye pattern on Lin's forehead dimmed before disappearing into his skin. He took a deep breath and opened his bright eyes. There was a satisfied look on his face. As expected, all of the divine plunder technique spell techniques were extremely useful. This divine plunder technique was very similar to the 1,000-eyed demonic dragon's plunder technique in that it could be unleashed from a range of over 100 meters. As long as one made eye contact with an enemy, one would be able to plunder the enemy's unique spell technique power. The time limit was 10 minutes, and it could accommodate up to 3 types of energy at the same time. My flame of life has returned, Hong Do murmured to himself within the massive crater. He crawled out from the crater and was greeted by the sight of a figure in a flowing white robe with his back to him. The figure was wielding a black long sword, and the figure was enshrouded in a faint light, making him appear especially tall and mighty. Say, Senior, were you the one who saved me? Hong Do spoke with tears in his eyes, but his face was filled with gratitude and reverence. The figure turned to look at Hong Do, and a smile suddenly appeared on his face. So it's you, Mr. Hong Do. How are you going to thank me for saving you? Hong Do was instantly rooted to the spot at the sight of this figure. Holy F***CK, it's you, he roared as 10,000 alpacas stampeded over his heart. He was saved by Lin? Wasn't he supposed to be the one to save Lin? This wasn't how things were supposed to go. A woman in a pink dress descended from the sky and landed lightly beside Lin with furrowed brows. Why doesn't such a powerful dragon have anything in it? Lin shrugged in resignation. This life form is quite special, so I had no choice but to burn it to ashes in order to avoid any accidents. I was wondering if something like realm essence crystals would appear in its body after I burned it to ashes, but it looks like I was overthinking things. Lu Chu pouted with displeasure. I might as well kill you and steal your treasures. And Lin, it made sense. He had fought so hard and nearly lost his life, but he had finally defeated an ancient boss. But who would have thought that the boss wouldn't drop any equipment, not even gold coins? Why were they still fighting so hard? Anyone would be heartbroken to see this happen. In reality, Lin wasn't all that upset. After all, he had obtained a hack, so he was quite happy. However, he couldn't show this on his face in case Lu Chu felt even more depressed. He was just that considerate. It was better for the two of them to suffer together than for one of them to obtain an opportunity while the other continued to suffer. At this moment, the jellyfish floating in the sky also slowly descended beside Lin. It introduced itself in an ethereal voice. "Hello, fellow cultivators. I am Ling Ying from the Hall of Creation in the Creation Realm." Lin nodded and also cupped his fists in salute. "Hello, Ling Ying. I am Lin from the Celestial Court of the Kingdom of the Nine States." Lu Chu also introduced herself. "Hello, I am Lu Chu from the Celestial Court of the Kingdom of the Nine States. I am Tina from the Central City." Tina flapped her golden wings with a wide grin. Hong Do swallowed a regenerative pill and limped over to them. He looked at Lin with a sheepish expression before pursing his lips. He then turned to Lu Chu. "I am Hong Do from the Hall of Creation in the Creation Realm." Lu Chu's eyes lit up. So he was Hong Do, the fourth best cultivator? And Lin bowed to Hong Do and Ling Ying with gratitude on his face. "Thank you for saving my life. I must thank you in advance." Regardless of the outcome, Hong Do and Ling Ying had indeed helped Lin deal with the thousand-eyed demonic dragon, and he would always remember their kindness. "Ha! There's no need to thank us, Mr. Lin. We didn't help much anyway." Ling Ying waved her hands, and a few dozen semi-transparent white tentacles waved in the air. Hong Do was a little embarrassed by her words of gratitude, and he harumphed lightly before turning his head in another direction. After a series of introductions, Ling Ying slowly flew toward the center of the White Lake. "Don't be disappointed. I can sense that the bottom of this White Lake is quite extraordinary." Ling Ying was a jellyfish, so she was extremely sensitive to anything related to water. Thus, she was able to detect that something was amiss. The eyes of Lin, Lu Chu, and the others all lit up as they followed Ling Ying toward the center of the White Lake. "Come with me, this might be a mystic realm. That demonic dragon just then is most likely the guardian beast of this mystic realm." Ling Ying led the way into the lake. For some reason, Lin thought of Jiang Anlin, who was the guardian of the White Cloud Lake ruins. Jiang Anlin was also a dragon, and he was responsible for guarding the ruins of the Purple Star Research Institute. Did this mean that the thousand-eyed demonic dragon was similar to Jiang Anlin? Was what they had done the same as killing Jiang Anlin and entering the ruins? Could there be tributes like the Rainbow Bull that could make the thousand-eyed demonic dragon voluntarily help them enter the mystic realm? Just as Lin's thoughts were running wild, Ling Ying had already arrived at the bottom of the lake. The bottom of the lake was extremely dark, but one could still see the massive crater left behind by the large explosion formation. Ling Ying's tentacles danced through the air, and an extremely dazzling light burst forth as a series of strange symbols were carved onto them. The symbols flashed, and the power they generated spread outward. In a certain direction in the water, a massive vortex suddenly formed due to the guidance of the power. This vortex seemed to be able to suck in all things, and it was pitch black and profound. "This is the passageway to the mystic realm. Come with me." Ling Ying waved her tentacles and swam toward the vortex excitedly. And Lin and the others could also sense some kind of special space within the vortex. Thus, they didn't hesitate any longer and followed Ling Ying into the massive vortex. Chapter 500. Two black figures hovered atop a certain mountain in the White Lake realm. They had crimson eyes and sharp black horns on their heads. Their auras were vast and powerful, and they were the true demons of the demonic realm. Zhong Lixing, what do you think? Should we chase after them? A female true demon with an extremely voluptuous figure asked in a low voice. She was wearing a black muslin dress that revealed her snowy white back. The muscular male, true demon, nodded with a serious expression. Even the guardian beasts of this mystic realm are so powerful. So the mystic realm at the bottom of the lake must be extraordinary. There must be a great opportunity there. We can't miss out on this opportunity. But it's just the two of us. There was a hesitant expression on the female true demon's face. The battle just then had been earth-shattering, and they had come here after hearing the commotion before hiding here. It was exactly because of this that they were able to witness just how powerful those people were. Even though she and Zhong Lixing were both powerful beings at the soul formation pinnacle stage, they might not necessarily be able to defeat those people. A faint smile appeared on Zhong Lixing's face. Konggu, who says we're going to fight them head-on? Our target is the treasures within the mystic realm. The mystic realm at the bottom of the lake must be quite large, and we'll make a run for it. In any case, we have that thing. Even if we encounter them, we can still run if we can't defeat them. Konga nodded slightly upon hearing this. Opportunities were obtained through hard work. As long as their lives weren't in great danger, it would be unjustifiable if they didn't fight for this opportunity. Thus, the two true demons transformed into a cloud of black mist before rushing toward the center of the lake. And Lin passed through the vortex at the bottom of the lake, and the space around him began to warp violently. Immediately afterward, a faint white light appeared before his eyes. He looked toward this mystic realm to find that it was a massive stone chamber that was over 100 feet wide. There were 4 football-sized luminous pearls embedded into the walls, all of which exuded an extremely gentle light, illuminating the entire chamber. Lu Chuchu immediately pulled out a sharp longsword from her storage ring and began to dig out the night-luminescent luminous pearl. These beautiful luminous pearls are all mine. Don't you dare fight with a girl like me. She warned everyone as she dug out the pearls. Everyone stared at Lu Chuchu with speechless expressions. Was she insane for trying to steal the mystic realm's lanterns? On Lin's side, such a large luminous pearl was indeed rare. But it was even rarer for someone to not even let go of the illumination pearl the moment they entered the secret territory. In any case, the arcane realms still needed face. Aren't you worried that the arcane realm will secretly increase the difficulty for us if you don't give any face to it? Lin couldn't be blamed for overthinking things. After all, he had explored the Purple Star ruins and the tomb of celestial immortal Shouyang, so he knew how important it was to give the ruins some face. In any case, Lu Chuchu dug out the 4 luminous pearls from the stone chamber and placed them into her storage ring with elation. Then, the stone chamber began to turn pitch black. With a resigned expression, Hongdo made the crimson flames in front of his chest burn brighter to illuminate his surroundings. Done. Let's keep going. An adorable smile appeared on Lu Chuchu's delicate features as she spoke to everyone with a wide grin. There was a passageway within the stone chamber, and it seemed to lead to another world. This passageway was very long and wide, and everyone walked at a moderate pace in case something unforeseen happened. After walking for a while, they saw the end of the passageway, where there was a film of light with rippling blue ripples. At the very top of the film of light was an inky black stone slab, upon which a few large words had been engraved. Huh, what does it say? Lu Chuchu was a little confused as she looked at the words on the stone slab. These words were extremely unfamiliar and gave off a sense of antiquity. Continent Dragon Valley Sanctuary. Lin and Tina spoke at the same time. The two of them looked at each other, and they could see the astonishment in each other's eyes. It's engraved in the ancient man language, and Lin explained. Lu Chuchu, Hongdo, and Ling Ying came to a sudden realization, but their expressions became a little peculiar. So what you're saying is that this terrifying creature isn't guarding a treasure vault, but a sanctuary instead? Hongdo asked in disbelief. Could it be that there are still normal living beings on this collapsed continent? Ling Ying was a little surprised. Of course there are. I'm a normal living being. Tina waved her little fist through the air with an angry expression. What? You're a living being from the ancient Tai Chu realm. Hongdo was given a huge fright. Ling Ying's feelers also began to tremble with excitement. I always thought you were from the Tai Chu continent, but you're a fairy from the ancient Tai Chu realm? Which place are you from? I'm not telling you. Tina felt like she was being discriminated against, and she pursed her lips as she hid behind Lin's ear. All right, let's not talk about this for now. Let's go in and have a look, and Lin suggested. This sanctuary was quite easy to understand. When a world was no longer suitable for living beings to live in, some mighty figures would often open up a new space for those living beings to live in. Now that the ancient Tai Chu realm was collapsing, it meant that there was a very good chance that they would encounter native beings from the ancient Tai Chu realm in the Dragon Valley Sanctuary. Once they thought of this, everyone's heart involuntarily tensed up. If there really were native beings in there, then they would be aliens from this world. Perhaps it would be even more perilous for them in there. Hongdo, you look like you're the sturdier one, so you go in first, and Lin suggested. Flames of indignation flared up in Hongdo's chest. Don't even think about screwing me over. And Lin, you're the most powerful one here, so you should go in first. Hee, I didn't think you would have some self-awareness after all. You know that you're no match for me. And Lin chuckled. Don't try to goad me into a trap. I won't fall for it. So what if I admit that I'm a little weaker than you? Hongdo harumphed coldly. Tina couldn't bear to watch any longer, and she yelled, Only a little? Don't you have any shame? You're clearly a lot weaker than me. Not only are you weak, but you're also a coward. What a waste of your big body. You don't even dare to admit that you're sturdy. Tina's Tai Chu language was becoming more and more fluent, and her words were even more penetrating. Hongdo was starting to doubt his own life. Hongdo was completely dumbstruck. In particular, he was being scorned by a tiny female fairy. The damage he was receiving was multiplied, and it was a critical strike that left him a little confused. Could it be that he really was a good-for-nothing? He thought back to his battle with the thousand-eyed demonic dragon, where he was screwed over and had to be saved by Lin in the end. Now, he was standing at the entrance of the mystic realm, but he didn't dare to go in first. Could it be that he was only here to be a bystander? No, Hongdo, have never been weaker than anyone. After experiencing an intense clash of ideologies, Hongdo was finally enlightened, and the flames in his chest began to burn. Cowards, I'm going to show you what a true warrior looks like. Follow me. Hongdo gritted his teeth and led the way through the blue barrier of light. Just look up at my back and see how sturdy and reliable my back is. Hongdo was walking like a true warrior, and everyone else in the passageway was struck by a sense of awe and veneration. Nicely done. And Lin transmitted his voice in praise. I'm just taking a leak, Tina replied with a smug expression. A minute later, Ling Ying sensed her aura seal. Hongdo is still alive, so there shouldn't be any danger in there. We can go in now. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief upon hearing this before stepping through the gate leading to the mystic realm. Chapter 501. And Lin, Lu Chu, Tina, and Ling Ying stepped into the blue light barrier and arrived in a world with a faint yellow glow hovering in the sky. Then, they were stunned by the sight before them. And Lin sucked in a breath of cold air. Holy F***CK. His eyes widened. Lu Chu's mouth gaped open slightly. Holy **T. Ling Ying was so shocked that her white tentacles froze in midair. Her blue eyes widened in shock. Tina covered her mouth in shock. So many Holy Spirit pagodas. As expected, the legends about Pangu leaving behind the Holy Spirit pagodas are all lies. These are called Realm Essence Crystals. Please don't call them Holy Spirit pagodas anymore. It sounds so weird. And Lin rolled his eyes. That's right. What appeared before them was a ground littered with Realm Essence Crystals. On the white ground several hundred meters away, many Realm Essence Crystals grew like plants. They fanned out around a black stone pillar that was over 1,000 feet tall. At a glance, there were at least 300 white Realm Essence Crystals, dozens of green Realm Essence Crystals, and over 20 blue Realm Essence Crystals. There were also 9 red Realm Essence Crystals, which were as dazzling as flowers. In addition, there were 3 golden Realm Essence Crystals. They were located at the edge of the black stone pillar and exuded an extremely alluring golden light. And Lin's eyes widened when he saw the golden Realm Essence Crystals. He had to obtain these golden Realm Essence Crystals. Look, Hongdo looks a little strange, Ling Ying suddenly said. Hearing this, everyone looked forward. In reality, Hongdo had been in front of them the entire time. However, they were blinded by the sight of so many realm essence crystals, so they automatically overlooked Hong Do's existence. Now, Hong Do was only a dozen or so meters away from them. His back was facing them, and he was in a running posture. It seemed like he was sprinting toward the realm essence crystals excitedly. However, Hong Do's sprinting was extremely slow in their eyes. It was as if his movement had been slowed down 1,000 times, and Lin grimaced. "Mr. Hong Do, what are you doing?" he yelled. Hong Do's sturdy stone body trembled slightly. Then, he turned his head with great difficulty. "This mystic realm has a problem." Hong Do was spouting nonsense and wasted a minute of everyone's time. And Lin, Lu Chu Chu, and the others surveyed their surroundings. Finally, their gazes fell upon the faint golden line that was 1 meter in front of them. The golden line seemed to be a boundary that separated two different worlds. And Lin stretched his hand over the line, and he was instantly struck by a sense of slowness. This feeling was very strange. His thoughts did not slow down, but other than that, all his other senses, including the movement of his body, would involuntarily slow down. It was not because he was being suppressed by his power, but because his body was instinctively slowing down. It was as if his body was born to move like this. What a peculiar feeling. This is most likely some kind of power of laws of heaven and earth. Our powers are unable to change this place. Lu Chu Chu also sensed the space within the golden line with a hint of surprise in her eyes. Even though this mystic realm is strange, it doesn't seem to pose much of a threat to us. Furthermore, there aren't any threats from the beings of the ancient Tai Chu realm, Ling Ying said. Just like that, everyone looked at each other again and made the same decision. Go in. The temptation of so many realm essence crystals was too great. They couldn't just give them all to Hong Do. One step forward, and all of them followed suit. Everyone passed through the golden line without any hesitation and charged forward as fast as they could. And Lin used his wings of wind and wind sword combination right from the start in hopes of using inertia to overtake Hong Do, who was a dozen meters ahead of them. However, he was still too naive. Once his body passed through the golden line, everything slowed down to the point where he forgot how to fly. Plop. He glided through the dirt, creating a trench that was 3 to 4 meters in length. Lu Chu Chu, Tina grabbed onto Lin's hair and also forgot how to fly. Her wings flapped irregularly, and the circulation of her power was also all over the place. It was as if everything had been messed up. This feeling was extremely vexing, especially Ling Ying. As a jellyfish that often floated in the air, she was now reduced to crawling on the ground with her tentacles. One had to realize she had never walked on the ground like this before. Because of this, although she was the one with the most legs among Lin and the others, she was still the last one in the mystic realm. Little, nah, help me snatch the gold, and Lin tried his best to command. At this moment, Tina had already jumped off his shoulder and was rushing toward the golden realm essence crystals. Although he was several meters ahead of everyone else, it took an insane amount of time for him to crawl back up. In the end, he was overtaken by Lu Chu Chu. "Hong Do, wait for him," and Lin ran with all his might as he spoke excitedly. Hong Do didn't even turn his head as he chuckled coldly. This was a very strange feeling. Everyone felt as if they had returned to their ignorant and carefree childhood. Everything was so natural and comfortable as they ran in this space without a care in the world. They had abandoned all restraints and had even forgotten how to use immortal spells and how to circulate vital energy. "I'm a happy little fairy." Tina cheered excitedly as she ran. I actually like the feeling of running." Lu Chu Chu's eyes narrowed slightly as a look of enjoyment appeared on her delicate face. Before they knew it, 10 minutes had passed. And Lin was still running with all his might, but he was unable to close the gap between him and Hong Do. If this continued, his realm essence crystals would be in great danger. Tina was in second place, and she was only a dozen or so meters behind Hong Do. Although each of her steps was very small, she was much faster than the average person. All in all, she was slightly faster than Hong Do. However, She couldn't guarantee that she would overtake Hongdo before he reached the Golden Realm essence crystals. Lu Chuchu was in third place, and she was only 5 meters behind Tina. Enlin was in fourth place, and he was about 6 to 7 meters behind Lu Chuchu. Ling Ying was in fifth place, and she was about 10 meters behind Enlin. In any case, Ling Ying was in despair. All she wanted to do was dig out some White Realm essence crystals. Right at this moment, the blue barrier of light rippled, and two unfamiliar figures appeared in this world. A beautiful woman with a pair of horns on her head and crimson eyes stared at the scene before her in astonishment. My God! Zhong Lixing, am I dreaming? So many realm essence crystals. Konga, don't get too excited. We can't be careless in this place. Have you noticed those people in front of you? There's something strange about this mystic realm. A dangerous glint flickered in Zhong Lixing's eyes. His reaction was extremely quick. He raised a palm high above his head, and vital energy surged. In an instant, a black ball containing a terrifying amount of energy materialized. Then, he ferociously smashed it toward Enlin and the others. That's right. If you're capable, then don't waste your breath. Zhong Lixing knew that Enlin and the others had fallen into a strange state. Thus, he didn't hesitate and seized the opportunity to strike first. This was what a powerful true demon should do. However, something unexpected happened. When the black sphere crossed a certain boundary, the energy actually collapsed on its own and completely dissipated. Are we still going in? Kongo was a little dazed upon seeing this. Zhong Lixing gazed at the densely packed realm essence crystals several hundred meters in front of them. He pondered for a moment, then gritted his teeth and said, "Of course we're going in. Why shouldn't we? This should be a slow-moving mystic realm that can nullify spell techniques. We actually have another advantage, and that is our ability to predict mystic realms. We can first accelerate outside, then use the inertia of our movement to overtake them." Kong Ji's eyes lit up. That's a good idea. Just like that, the two of them began to accelerate wildly outside the mystic realm. Then, they flew into the mystic realm's golden streak. Everything was extremely miraculous. The two true demons felt as if their surroundings had slowed down, so much so that they had forgotten how to fly. Plop! The two true demons glided through the air, creating a 3 to 4 meter long trench in the ground. Chapter 502. Ling Ying, who was running at the very back of the group, was the first to notice something amiss. She hurriedly said, "Be careful. There are two true demons behind us." Hearing this, everyone turned to look behind them. Then they saw the two true demons gliding through the air and eating dirt. Seeing this familiar scene, everyone was speechless. They even wanted to look up at the sky. And Lin grimaced. Were these two true demons paying their respects to him? However, they quickly turned their gazes to the front again and continued running. That's right, true demons were nothing here. It didn't matter if you were a true demon or a fake demon. Running as fast as you could was the most important thing. Only by running fast could you obtain realm essence crystals. The two true demons lying on the ground were also dumbfounded. After being stared at by their enemies, the enemies didn't say a word. They all turned around and continued running as if nothing had happened. "We have been underestimated," Kongus said slowly. "Don't worry, we'll catch up to them soon. The physical strength of us true demons is extraordinary." Zhong Lixing was very confident, and his body exuded a boundless desire to fight. Just like that, the two of them spent a few minutes crawling up from the ground. The distance between them increased to 12 meters. Zhong Lixing wasn't willing to give up. He unleashed his full strength and started running. However, a feeling of extreme slowness engulfed their bodies. It was as if slowness was the meaning of this place. They had abandoned all burdens and slowed everything down. Zhong Lixing and Kong Ji's powerful physical strength didn't seem to be reflected in this place. The distance between them and Enlin didn't seem to decrease at all. However, the only consolation was that the distance between them and the jellyfish was shrinking. Finally, after an hour, they were ready to overtake the jellyfish. Haha, your speed is only SOSO. Zhong Lixing seemed to have found an outlet to vent. He had successfully regained some of his lost ground. However, just as they were about to brush past the jellyfish's tentacles suddenly wrapped around Zhong Lixing and Kong Ji's bodies like tentacles. Although it sounded like it was suddenly wrapped around them, it was actually very slow. It was just that they couldn't dodge it with the speed of a true demon. Kong Gu screamed in fear. Zhong Lixing, what? You still want to fight with us here? Zhong Lixing had a look of shock and confusion on his face. He didn't expect that the jellyfish would choose to sacrifice its own interests and use the method of fighting to slow them down so that the people in front of it would benefit. Please bring me along. I really can't catch up with the people in front of me, Ling Ying pleaded. I don't know how to walk, and these tentacles can't extend. You guys just happen to run past me, so I can only hug you guys tightly. Just take it as me hitching a ride. Ling Ying continued. Zhong Lixing, then don't strangle me here. Change to another position. Kong Ji's chest was like a raging sea, and the tentacles were extremely close to that area, which made her face burn. Oh! Ling Ying obediently shifted her tentacles, wrapping them around Kong Ji's slender, snake-like waist. She was extremely cooperative. Zhong Lixing forcefully pulled at the tentacles wrapped around his waist. However, he discovered that the tentacles were extremely tough. Furthermore, they were very strong. He couldn't tear them apart at all. Even his sharp claws couldn't cause any damage to them. This damned mystic realm. If only it didn't have this power of law. Zhong Lixing fell silent. He ignored Ling Ying's entanglement and continued to run forward. His goal was the realm essence crystals. He would settle this score later. Just like that, the two true demons became the ones pulling Ling Ying's carriage as they ran forward. Ling Ying was extremely touched. She felt like she was about to throw up from walking with her tentacles. This feeling was still the best. It felt like she was flying with someone pulling her along. Hong Do, who was running at the very front, was already less than 200 meters away from the realm essence crystals. He had never felt such a sense of accomplishment before. Regardless of whether it was the calm and powerful senior brother Ling Ying, the freakishly powerful Lin, or the extremely powerful true demons, they were all left behind by him. At this moment, they all had to look at Grandpa Do's back as he ran. This was a scene that everyone yearned for. It was as if he was a guide who led everyone forward. He was the most dazzling existence in this group of people. Hong Do became more and more excited as he ran. The red flames on his chest burned brighter and brighter, and he almost burst out laughing. However, right at this moment, the ground suddenly started to tremble without any warning. Everyone's heart trembled. The tremors didn't slow down. Rather, they were really shaking at an extremely fast speed. The terrifying tremors almost caused everyone who was running at a very slow speed to lose their footing. The white earth started to bulge and crack. An ominous feeling welled up in everyone's heart. Would they still have the ability to resist if something strange happened at this time? 100 meters away from the densely packed realm essence crystals, smoke and dust exploded into the air. Immediately afterward, several skeletal monsters appeared. There were humans and beasts, and there were at least 100 of them. Those who invade my sanctuary shall die. When they saw Hong Do, crimson flames ignited in their empty eye sockets. They roared and pounced toward Hong Do at a terrifying speed. That's right. Although their speed was only slightly faster than a normal human's, it was a terrifying speed to Hong Do. This strange mystic realm power was completely ineffective against these skeletal monsters. Hong Do almost pissed himself in fear at this ferocious wave of monsters. His eyes were filled with terror and regret. Why did he run at the very front? Why did he have to be the first one to be shot? These skeletal monsters pounced toward Hong Do and started to pummel him with their fists. Hong Do wanted to use his fist to send these skeletal monsters flying. However, his fists were only 5 centimeters per second, so he really couldn't even touch their bones. Soon, Hong Do was pounced onto the ground by a large group of skeletal monsters who attacked him in a frenzy. The only fortunate thing was that these skeletal monsters weren't very powerful. At most, they were at the intermediate stage of the Tao body stage. Although Hong Do couldn't circulate his vital energy or use his physical strength. Just his rock body alone was enough to withstand the attacks of the skeletal monsters. He wouldn't be injured because of this. However, the important thing now wasn't whether he would be injured or not. He was currently being pounded onto the ground by a group of soldiers. This was a form of humiliation. F***ck off. Hong Do roared in rage and attacked the skeletal monsters with all his might. However, it was completely useless. They all dodged his attacks. Half of the hundreds of skeletal monsters directly passed by Hong Do and pounced toward Lin and the others. Thus, Lin, Lu Chu, Ling Ying, Zhong Lixing, and Kong Ge were also trampled upon by the skeletal monsters. They were all powerful cultivators of the soul formation stage and were revered existences on the continent. Now, however, they were being bullied by a group of weak skeletal monsters. An unprecedented sense of humiliation welled up in their hearts. Detestable. Detestable. They're going too far. Zhong Lixing had a look of indignation on his face. A huge skeletal wolf pounced on him and started gnawing on the pair of sharp horns on his head. Don't do this. A bone python coiled around Lu Chu's slender body. Her heels slipped, and she fell to the ground. Her eyes were fixed on the nearby realm essence crystals, and there was a strong look of indignation on her delicate face. Lin was sent flying by a large skeletal elephant. Then he was punched and kicked by a group of skeletal monsters. Kong Ge was surrounded by skeletal birds, and she was continuously battered by them. Finally, she collapsed to the ground. Ling Ying let out a series of strange cries as her tentacles were being torn apart by a group of skeletal dogs. Soon, Lu Chu's indignation froze on her face. It was as if she had seen something inconceivable. There was a figure that had been neglected and was currently rushing toward the realm essence crystals. She was so insignificant. However, in Lu Chu's eyes, she was a ray of light that had been neglected. She was a ray of light that was heading toward victory. The adorable little fairy, Tina, was currently sprinting toward the finish line. Her white dress fluttered in the wind. She was less than 2 centimeters tall. Perhaps it was precisely because she was too small that she had been neglected by all the skeletal monsters. She had already surpassed Hong Do's position and became the first person. Chapter 503. Lu Chu was the first to discover Tina's figure. However, she remained silent in order to avoid being discovered by the other skeletons. Lin, who was being pummeled by a horde of skeletons, also discovered Tina's sprinting figure after a short while. She was so tiny, yet so dazzling. He was caught off guard, and he was caught off guard by a wave of happiness. Lin's body trembled, and he was so touched that he was about to burst into tears. He gave Tina 10,000 thumbs up in his heart. Go, Tina. Reclaim the glory that belongs to us. Collect all of the realm essence crystals. When that time comes, Tina's things will also be his things. Lin chuckled with contentment as he looked at the skeleton's fists raining down on his face. In that instant, even the skeleton's fists were so gentle. Tina rushed to the area where the realm essence crystals were densely packed. She was momentarily dazed as she stared at the dazzling array of realm essence crystals. However, she quickly composed herself and sprinted toward the golden realm essence crystals. She hadn't forgotten what Lin had told her. She had to collect the 3 golden realm essence crystals first. After a long period of sprinting, she finally arrived in front of the 3 golden realm essence crystals. A victorious smile appeared on her face as she looked at the towering realm essence crystals. Jine and Lin, I did it. These 3 Holy Spirit towers are ours. She pulled out her own spatial bag and was about to place the golden realm essence crystals into the spatial treasure. However, in the next second, Tina fell into a long silence as she stared at the towering realm essence crystals. She discovered a very cruel truth. She couldn't circulate her vital energy or use the power in her body. She couldn't move such a large realm essence crystal. Tina stared at the golden realm essence crystals, which were many times larger than her, in a daze. She didn't know what to do. After a moment of hesitation, she walked over and hugged the realm essence crystal tightly in an attempt to lift it. She then discovered that her strength was far too weak. She really couldn't lift such a large realm essence crystal. And Lin also discovered this problem, and his mood instantly plummeted. He stared blankly at the helpless Tina as a sense of grief and despair welled up in his heart. At this moment, even the skeleton monster's soft fists were in so much pain. Tina didn't give up, and she slowly climbed up the realm essence crystals. She discovered that the surface of the realm essence crystals was a little sticky, and she could use this to her advantage. After climbing to the top of the realm essence crystals, she opened her spatial bag and slipped it onto the tip of the realm essence crystals. Wah! The spatial bag was like a bottomless pit, and it continued to devour realm essence crystals. Soon, a golden realm essence crystal was successfully devoured. Hiss! And Lin had been paying close attention to Tina's every move, and he almost cheered out loud when he saw this scene. However, he managed to hold himself back in the end, and a blissful smile appeared on his face. The skeleton monster's fists became gentle again as it pounded its own body. It was Tina's resourcefulness and determination to never give up that moved him, and he couldn't stop cheering in his heart. After another 10 minutes or so, the 3 golden realm essence crystals had completely fallen into Tina's spatial bag. Now, it was time for Tina to do whatever she wanted. In any case, it was the principle of proximity. Starting from the area around the golden realm essence crystals, she slowly spread out in all directions, plundering everything in her path. With great difficulty, Hongdo propped his gigantic body up into a sitting position. Then, under the relentless barrage of attacks, he slowly stood up like a towering, unshakable mountain. That's right. He had already learned how to maintain his balance in the face of such ferocious attacks. At this moment, his heart was filled with pride. His eyes blazed like torches as he gazed at the realm essence crystals in the distance. Ha ha! How come your skeleton soldiers make me, Hongdo, submit? All the realm essence crystals are mine. However, when his gaze fell upon the densely packed realm essence crystals, his smile gradually disappeared. How could this be? Where are my golden realm essence crystals? How could they disappear? What the hell? Hongdo stared ahead with an incredulous expression. He blinked violently, wondering if he was hallucinating from the skeleton monster's attacks. Right at this moment, another red realm essence crystal began to disappear. In terms of value, red realm essence crystals were second only to golden realm essence crystals. They were like a single red dot in a sea of greenery. Naturally, the disappearance of the red realm essence crystals didn't escape Hongdo's eyes. Then, he discovered the figure that he had automatically ignored. When Hongdo saw that figure, he sucked in a breath of cold air. It's you. It's actually you. So, someone had already surpassed him and become the team's number 1. He had become the team's biggest winner. He was still too naive. He had used all his might to stand up, but he didn't expect to see such a heart-wrenching reality. At this moment, the flames in Hongdo's chest seemed to have dimmed slightly. That's right, this was a race. As long as one worked hard, they would have a chance to overcome difficulties. As long as one worked hard, they would have a chance to surpass everyone else. But for some people, difficulties didn't target them at all. How could they compete? When the 2 true demons heard Hongdo's yell, they also turned their gazes toward the realm essence crystals in front of them. Then, they turned pale with fright and started to panic. Who would have thought that a fairy would beat us to it? Zhong Lixing crawled to his feet with great difficulty. Before a smile could appear on his face, his expression darkened. All the golden realm essence crystals are gone. An indignant expression appeared on Kong Ji's face. That's all right. We can still snatch some other types of realm essence crystals. Zhong Lixing had an indignant expression on his face. He withstood the attacks of countless skeletons. Just as he was about to advance with great difficulty, he suddenly felt something tighten around his waist. It was as if something was strangling him. Zhong Lixing lowered his head and discovered that a white, transparent, yet extremely tough tentacle was currently wrapped around his waist. Zhong Lixing, why aren't you letting go? At this moment, Ling Ying was being bitten by a pack of skeletons. With great difficulty, she said, I run slowly, bring me along. Zhong Lixing gritted his teeth and slowly advanced forward. However, he discovered that the resistance behind him was extraordinarily strong. Not only did he have to drag Ling Ying, but he also had to drag a pack of skeletons that were biting onto Ling Ying's tentacle. I want to curse someone. Zhong Lixing couldn't take it anymore. If this continued, how could he snatch any realm essence crystals? Ling Ying waved her tentacle. Curse me all you want. I'm a jellyfish anyway. You're not a human. Konggu retorted angrily. Zhong Lixing, Ling Ying Konggu was momentarily dazed. She glared at Ling Ying fiercely and corrected herself. You're not a jellyfish. Was she cursing someone? She wasn't cursing someone, was she? She wasn't cursing a jellyfish, was she? Zhong Lixing felt that Konggu had probably gone mad from anger. For someone like him, he couldn't be bothered to curse her. Once they got out of here, he would find an opportunity to tear this jellyfish apart. Just like that, the two true demons endured the attacks of countless skeletons as they dragged the jellyfish behind them forward at an extremely slow pace. This arduous method of advancing had once caused them to feel despair, and they wanted to give up, and Lin and Lu Chu also struggled to stand up. They relied on their powerful soul formation stage bodies to deal with the attacks of the skeletons. They maintained their balance as they slowly advanced forward. At this moment, Tina had already stored all of the golden and red realm essence crystals into her spatial bag. Hongdo roared as he continued forward. His indignation and indignation transformed into a soaring fighting spirit. His chest actually began to burn up. Chapter 504. Ha ha! I can feel the power. As expected, I'm special. I'm the one who's been chosen. Hongdo laughed heartily. Scorching flames suddenly rose from his chest, and a power that he hadn't felt in a long time started to spread throughout his body. Although it was still very weak, it was still much stronger than before. F***CK off. He punched a skeletal tiger in front of him. Although his speed was very slow, the tiger was unable to dodge in time and was struck squarely in the face. Boom! After a loud explosion, the skeletal tiger's skull cracked open, and its body was also sent flying by the punch. The sound of bones breaking was so pleasing to the ear, and it made one feel elated. It was that unyielding will that allowed him to recover a sliver of his strength. At this moment, he was unique. Hongdo felt like he was invincible, and he was in high spirits as he surveyed his surroundings with a haughty expression. It was as if he was saying, "Look at me. Do you see my fist? Do you see my stalwart back?" Finally, he focused his gaze in front of him. However, he was given a fright when he saw what he saw. He saw a tiny fairy flapping her wings and flying into the air. She held a spatial bag in her hand and threw it at the realm essence crystals one after another. Hongdo was stupefied, and an extremely sorrowful thought welled up in his mind. He turned around and discovered that Lin could already release faint flames to repel the skeletons in front of him, and Lu Chu had already swatted away the skeletal python with her bow. So, everyone is the same. No, we're not the same. Hongdo suddenly came to a realization. He still had the advantage of distance. Apart from Tina, he was the closest being to the realm essence crystals. With this in mind, his gaze fell upon the 20 or so blue realm essence crystals. He had no choice. The gold and red realm essence crystals had all been taken by Tina, so only the blue realm essence crystals were valuable. Hongdo roared angrily and sprinted toward the realm essence crystals. With his weak strength, he didn't need to worry too much about the skeleton's attacks. All he needed to do was maintain his balance and keep running. And Lin also started running. Right now, he could already circulate a minuscule amount of vital energy. As he watched Tina collect realm essence crystals after realm essence crystals, he began to have an inkling as to why she was able to regain her strength. This change had actually started after Tina collected the realm essence crystals. In other words, it was very likely that the realm essence crystals in this space had dwindled, thereby triggering this change. Realm essence crystals had the ability to make space viscous. Then, when there was a certain amount of realm essence crystals and they circulated in a certain pattern, could it be that this was the cause of the power of law? And Lin could feel that his power was slowly recovering. Even though this process was very slow, it was indeed a constant recovery, and all of this was slowly confirming his suspicions. Hongdo finally arrived at an area filled with realm essence crystals. He excitedly plucked the realm essence crystals in front of him. White, green, blue, nothing was spared. Lu Chuchu followed along behind Hongdo, and she didn't back down either as she continued to scavenge in another direction. And Lin thought about it for a moment before starting from Hongdo's left side. Just like that, they split into 3 groups and plundered the Blackstone Pillar along the way. Zhong Lixing and Kong Ji's eyes widened at the sight of the people plundering the realm essence crystals. F*CK off. Zhong Lixing sensed that his strength had recovered. He immediately retrieved a large saber from his storage ring and slashed at the tentacles around his waist. Ling Ying retracted her tentacles in fright. Then, she soared into the air. That's right, she could finally fly. The feeling of floating, which she hadn't felt in a long time, made her extremely moved. She couldn't be bothered with these 2 true demons anymore as she directly flew toward the realm essence crystals. Zhong Lixing and Kong Gu looked at each other. They knew that this wasn't the time to fight. Plundering the realm essence crystals was the most important thing now. Thus, they also sprinted forward. At this moment, the advantage of the true demons' physical bodies finally came into play. Normal skeletons were completely unable to stop them and were directly sent flying by their powerful bodies. When Lin saw that there were people rushing over from behind him, he knew that he couldn't plunder all the realm essence crystals in this path. Thus, he started to selectively plunder the green and blue realm essence crystals first. Then, he would turn around and plunder the white realm essence crystals. Konggu, be careful. Don't get ambushed by them. Zhong Lixing slashed several skeletons in front of him into pieces at the same time. Then, he dashed into the group of realm essence crystals. All right, Konggu nodded. At the same time, she reached out to grab the white realm essence crystal in front of her. However, right at this moment, a tentacle shot out like lightning, plucked the white realm essence crystal, and fled. You've gone too far. Kong Ji's crimson eyes burned with fury as she glared at Ling Ying, who was in the sky. Ling Ying couldn't be bothered with them. She continued to plunder the realm essence crystals around her. It felt great to have more tentacles at a time like this. Plundering a small area of realm essence crystals at the same time wasn't something an ordinary person could experience. At the moment, Konggu still couldn't use any spell techniques. Thus, she could only swallow her dissatisfaction and clench her teeth as she continued to plunder the realm essence crystals on the other side. After a short while, Tina met up with Hongdo, Lu Chuchu, and Enlin. She started plundering from the innermost area, and her harvest was the greatest. She had already plucked all the realm essence crystals in the back, and she was very full from the meat. Enlin, Hongdo, and Lu Chuchu followed her to drink the soup. They all chose to plunder the more valuable realm essence crystals first, and they all obtained quite a few green and blue realm essence crystals. In other words, all that was left were white realm essence crystals. Their eyes burned with desire. Even white realm essence crystals were still money. They couldn't let this go. Thus, the 4 of them started plundering from the innermost area. Finally, the 2 true demons saw Lin and the others turning back to plunder the realm essence crystals toward them. They instantly felt immense pressure. The 2 of them had only collected close to 100 white realm essence crystals. They were truly unwilling to leave just like that. 100 black snakes. Zhong Lixing opened his hand, but only 6 black snakes shot out. Using a spell technique was finally somewhat effective. The 6 black snakes coiled around the 6 realm essence crystals. Then, they lifted their heads and quickly flew back toward Zhong Lixing. However, right at this moment, 6 bolts of blue lightning suddenly shot out from the void. With a deafening boom, the 6 black snakes were blasted into black mist, which completely dissipated into the air. Kongu humped coldly. She made a grabbing motion toward the 6 realm essence crystals in the air. A violent gust of wind swept through the air, and the realm essence crystals continued to fly toward them. However, right at this moment, a translucent tentacle tore through the air and swept away the 6 realm essence crystals. "It's you again." Konga couldn't take it anymore. A crescent scythe appeared in front of her, and she charged toward Ling Ying with a murderous intent. "I'm going to cut off all your tentacles today." Lu Chu drew her bow to the fullest extent and aimed it at Zhong Lixing. There was an indescribable excitement on her face. "Leave behind your storage ring and scram. Or leave behind your head." That's right. She was finally going to resume her old occupation. She was extremely excited, and Lin saw a rather incongruous scene. He immediately raised his leg and kicked toward the rock golem who was still plucking the white realm essence crystals. Boom! Hongdo was caught off guard and was sent flying by the kick. "Are you crazy? Why did you hit me?" Hongdo flared up in rage. "Heh, we're defending against a foreign enemy. You're secretly plucking the realm essence crystals, and you still have the nerve to speak?" And Lin chuckled coldly. Hongdo's face flushed red. "Nonsense," he retorted in a low voice. "I'm clearly plucking them out in the open. How can you call it secretly plucking? I'm just afraid that the true demon will snatch the realm essence crystals, so I'm keeping them safe." In any case, Hongdo finally focused his attention on the true demon and stopped plucking the realm essence crystals. Chapter 505. Zhong Lixing looked at the 2 powerful cultivators who had joined forces, and he began to think about retreating. "Kongu, don't be rash. Let's retreat," he suddenly said. Then he waved his hand, and a thick black mist gushed out, obscuring the entire space. Not only could this black mist block vision, but it could also block divine sense. Ling Ying's reaction was also extremely fast. In the instant the black fog appeared, the tentacles below it crazily extended and exploded with a bright white lightning glow. It enveloped the area within a radius of 1,000 feet, forming a lightning cage. "You want to block my eyes with this level of black mist?" The corners of Lu Chu's lips curled up slightly, and an extremely sharp golden light flashed through her yellow eyes, which seemed to be imbued with the power to see through all lies and falsehoods. A pink energy arrow materialized on the bowstring, and a small crimson arrow appeared in the center of the energy arrow. The 2 arrows combined into one, and the tip of the arrow shone with an intimidating red light. Divine technique, bloodline tracking, demon-slaying arrow. Lu Chu yelled, and the arrow left the bowstring. The pink arrow shone with a red light, and it tore through the air at a terrifying speed toward Zhong Lixing's head. This was an arrow that could tear through space and track its target. Lu Chu had used this arrow to instantly kill a powerful ancient seahorse demon. And Lin also attacked. He launched a mountain-quaking lightning fist in the direction of the exit. He couldn't see where the 2 true demons were, but there was only one exit. Thus, he was sure to attack the exit. Tina also launched a full-power holy light attack in the direction of Lin's attack. She didn't know where the 2 true demons were, but she just had to attack in the direction of Lin's attack. If she followed Lin, she would have meat to eat. However, Hongdo was completely dumbfounded by this situation. He stared blankly at the people who were attacking one after another, and he suddenly felt extremely disappointed. Why did everyone know where the enemies were? Why couldn't he sense anything? So, there's actually such a huge gap between them? Was it because his power was too weak, so his vision and divine sense were blocked? He couldn't help but fall into a deep state of self-doubt. So, it had always been a useless piece of rock. On the other side, Zhong Lixing and Kongu, who were in the midst of fleeing, both felt a sense of impending doom. Zhong Lixing retrieved a palm-sized ancient black cauldron from his storage ring without any hesitation. He activated it with all his might. Rumble. A black, ball-like object instantly enveloped Zhong Lixing and Kong Ji's bodies. The dark, devouring, demonic cauldron. This was a high-grade immortal artifact that could devour all kinds of offensive spell techniques in a short period of time, as well as greatly increase the speed of its target. Zhong Lixing only dared to steal the realm essence crystals in front of Enlin and the others because he possessed this special immortal tool. The pink arrow tore through the air and pierced the black sphere with terrifying power. Then, as if it had entered a black hole, it completely dissipated on the surface of the black sphere. Is that even possible? Lu Chuchu's brows furrowed slightly as she stared at the black ball in confusion. The mountain quaking lightning fist and the holy light attack also bombarded the surface of the black sphere. Then, they were like clay oxen entering the sea as they were directly devoured by the black sphere. A breath later, the black sphere that had enveloped Kong Gu and Zhong Lixing broke through Ling Ying's lightning cage. It even devoured Ling Ying's tentacles. Then, it passed through the blue spatial barrier and disappeared from this heaven and earth. It hurts! Ling Ying cried out in alarm as a few of her tentacles were severed. Did we miss something? And Lin was also perplexed. He had unleashed the mountain-quaking lightning fist, but there wasn't even the sound of an explosion. It could be said that it didn't even feel like an impact. This also made him perplexed. They escaped using a very strange black cauldron, which allows them to transform into black balls that can absorb spell techniques. All of our attacks were swallowed by the black balls. Lu Chuchu heaved a forlorn sigh as she explained. The black mist gradually dissipated. Ling Ying was currently swallowing a pill that could regenerate her severed limbs. She looked sickly as she floated in the air. Meanwhile, Hong Do was half squatting on the ground as he stared blankly ahead. It was as if life had lost all meaning and he had lost all passion for battle. And Lin looked at the remaining 100 or so white realm essence crystals. The true demon has already escaped. Let's split these realm essence crystals evenly. You guys split them, Hong Do said expressionlessly. I feel like I'm just here to waste my time. I don't deserve these realm essence crystals. And Lin, everyone, and Lin was astonished. Hong Do, what's wrong with you? How did you suddenly become enlightened? Do you have such self-awareness? Hong Do's chest constricted. F***CKU. These realm essence crystals are mine. Just like that. And Lin, Lu Chuchu, Tina, Hong Do, and Ling Ying each received over 20 white realm essence crystals. Jine and Lin, these are the realm essence crystals I received. Take a look. A smug smile appeared on Tina's face. She took out her spatial bag and handed it to Enlin. She was both nervous and excited, as if she were a child waiting to be praised by an adult. Enlin took out the realm essence crystals from the spatial bag and drew a sharp intake of breath. Everyone else was also astonished by the sight before them. They were almost blinded by the light. 3 golden realm essence crystals, 9 red realm essence crystals, 5 blue realm essence crystals, 10 green realm essence crystals, and 35 white realm essence crystals. In terms of total value, the realm essence crystals that she had received accounted for more than half of the total value of the realm essence crystals. Hong Do thought that he had received the second most realm essence crystals. However, he fell into deep thought as he looked at the 4 blue realm essence crystals, 12 green realm essence crystals, and 40 white realm essence crystals in his storage ring. Ling Ying was in an even worse state. Although she had many tentacles, she had arrived late and only received 62 white realm essence crystals. And Lin patted Tina's little head with a wide smile on his face. My little knot really is the best. I'll keep these realm essence crystals for you for now. You're still young, so I'll return them to you when you grow up. Everyone almost vomited blood upon hearing this. What the F***CK? Do you mean I'll return them when I grow up? Can I still grow up? This is daylight robbery. Tina was extremely elated as she flew around Enlin. All right, just like that. Enlin happily stowed away all the realm essence crystals in his storage ring. He counted the total number of realm essence crystals in his storage ring, including those he had obtained from killing others and robbing others. There were a total of 152 white realm essence crystals, 30 green realm essence crystals, 11 blue realm essence crystals, 9 red realm essence crystals, and 3 golden realm essence crystals. TSK, TSK, TSK. He had instantly become a realm essence crystal tycoon. He had already swallowed 4 golden realm essence crystals, so he had 3 golden realm essence crystals in his storage ring. This meant that he would be able to complete his mission and obtain the embryonic body of the war god after obtaining 3 more golden realm essence crystals. I wonder what this body of the war god will look like. It's definitely going to be very powerful. Will it look like a super scion with golden hair and a golden aura enshrouding his entire body? And Lin couldn't help but let his imagination run wild, and a wide smile appeared on his face. Everyone was filled with hatred as they looked at Lin's smug expression. However, there was nothing they could do. They could only glare at him helplessly. Who told him to have a stupid fairy who was still counting the money for him after being sold? The realm essence crystals were divided among everyone and stowed away in their storage rings. Before they knew it, the strange feeling of space slowing down and the inability to circulate vital energy disappeared. Heaven and earth returned to normal. Crack. The sound of something cracking suddenly traveled over. Everyone looked behind them in unison. The black stone pillar that was 1,000 feet tall was starting to crack. Chapter 506. In the center of the White Lake, there was a huge splash as Zhong Lixing and Kong Gu appeared in the sky. It was already nighttime. There was no moon, and the surroundings were pitch black. Only a few stars decorated the night sky. Zhong Lixing held the ancient black cauldron in his hand. His body swayed slightly as he spat out a large mouthful of blood. Zhong Lixing, are you all right? Kong Gu hurried over and carefully supported him. Zhong Lixing waved his hand and shook his head. I'm fine. It's just that the dark, devouring, heavenly demon cauldron absorbed too much power. I can't handle the backlash. Kong Ji's face was filled with fear. Now that we can't use the dark, devouring, heavenly demon cauldron for 10 days, we've lost our greatest life-saving trump card. I don't know if we've made a profit or a loss by obtaining only 100 realm essence crystals. Zhong Lixing fell silent. They had obtained close to 1 million spirit stones this time. This was a huge sum of money. However, they had lost a life-saving trump card for this sum of money. In this perilous environment, it was hard to say whether it was a loss or not. Let's go. No matter what, we've already done this. Let's go somewhere else and stop wasting time with them. Zhong Lixing thought for a moment, then decided to give up on fighting against Lin and the others. He planned to search for other opportunities. At the same time, in a mystic realm at the bottom of the lake, the 1,000-foot-tall black stone pillar started to crumble. Finally, it shattered into pieces and fell to the ground. Lin and the others focused their attention as they stared at the spot where the stone pillar had crumbled. A figure appeared in the smoke and dust. It seemed to be a human. When the smoke and dust slowly dissipated, Lin could finally see the figure clearly. He had an extremely handsome face and a pair of black dragon horns on his head. His eyes were crimson, and there was a hint of madness in them. Why am I still alive? Didn't the great time obliteration spell formation succeed? Why am I still here? The dragon tribe male stared at his surroundings in confusion. Tears of grief flowed from his eyes. Lin, what is that dragon saying? Lu Chuchu couldn't understand the ancient man language, so she asked curiously. Hongdo and Ling Ying also turned to look at Lin with curiosity in their eyes. He seemed very dissatisfied with the fact that he didn't die, so he was so angry that he cried, and Lin explained. Lu Chuchu, everyone, the man from the Dragon Clan, looked at the ground in front of him. As if realizing something, his body suddenly trembled. I see. Even the realm essence crystals have disappeared. This must be the reason. He turned his gaze to Lin and the others, and a terrifying, murderous aura swept towards them. He growled in a low voice, "How dare you ruin my suicide plan? I want you dead." Everyone could feel a terrifying power. That power gave them a feeling of invincibility. It was as though the man from the dragon race could kill them all with a single strike. Wait, This has nothing to do with us. And Lin immediately waved his hands with an innocent expression as he explained. There were two true demons who took away all of the realm essence crystals from this place. We tailed them all the way here, but we were still a step too late. They used a mystic technique to escape. The man from the dragon tribe faltered slightly upon hearing this, and his violent aura receded significantly. However, his eyes were still fixed on Enlin, and it was as though he was about to attack at any moment. Enlin heaved a sigh of relief upon seeing this. Fortunately, this man from the dragon tribe wasn't the kind of lunatic who would attack upon meeting someone. There was still room for negotiation. Senior, since there's nothing else, we will take our leave. And Lin felt that it wasn't wise to stay here any longer. They had already taken all the realm essence crystals. There was no point in killing this boss who didn't even have a storage ring and didn't even drop any treasures. Thus, he immediately wanted to leave this place. The man from the dragon tribe remained silent. Seeing this, Enlin immediately turned around and prepared to flee. Wait, you can't leave before I die, the man from the dragon tribe suddenly said. Enlin, what is he saying? Lu Chuchu asked curiously. He said that we can't leave before he dies. Enlin felt like his liver was throbbing with pain as he replied with a speechless expression. Lu Chuchu's lips twitched upon hearing this. Had they encountered a psychopath? The man from the dragon tribe looked up into the sky with a sorrowful expression. I've been trapped in this sanctuary for tens of thousands of years. I can't leave and I can't die. Everyone has left me, and I'm the only one left here tasting endless loneliness. As he spoke, he turned to look at Enlin and the others with a sinister expression. Loneliness. This is endless loneliness. Do you know what loneliness is? And Lin felt like this man from the dragon tribe was about to be driven insane by this environment. What did it have to do with him whether this man from the dragon tribe was lonely or not? Did he want to play and chat with him? In any case, either you kill me or you stay here with me. The man from the dragon tribe finally voiced his thoughts. And Lin relayed the words of the man from the dragon tribe to everyone, and they were all dumbstruck. All right. They had to admit that this man was indeed very pitiful. However, he didn't want to live anymore. Most importantly, he was trying to drag them down with him. Senior, then why can't you leave? Even though Enlin was cursing in his heart, he still maintained a respectful smile on his face. Do you see the golden scar on the ground? That's the nomological power of heaven and earth. I'm already at the return to void stage, so I can't cross this golden scar. It exudes an extremely powerful repulsive force toward return to void stage cultivators, so I can't even approach it, let alone cross it. The man from the dragon tribe stared at the golden scar a few hundred meters away with an expression of despair and indignation. And Lin came to a sudden realization upon hearing this. Return to void stage cultivators were prohibited from entering the ancient divine division. Then his eyes suddenly lit up, and he transmitted his voice to everyone. That man from a dragon tribe is at the return to void stage, so he can't cross the golden scar. In other words, he won't be able to catch up to us as long as we escape from the golden scar. Everyone's hearts were instantly filled with hope upon hearing this. But all return to void stage cultivators have spatial restrictions. Although it's only a distance of 500 meters, we still might not be able to cross the golden scar. After all, it's just a matter of raising a hand for a return to void stage cultivator to freeze space. Lu Chuchu voiced out her concern. Indeed, if we really fail to escape and anger that dragon, we'll all die here. Hongdo was extremely cowardly at this moment, and he also strongly supported Lu Chuchu's point of view. At this moment, the man from the dragon tribe continued, I know what you're thinking, but I advise you to give up on the idea of escaping. Otherwise, I'll make you wish you were dead. A cold smile suddenly appeared on his face, and he even licked the corner of his lips as he shook his head slightly. And Lin felt a chill spread through his body. This guy has definitely gone crazy. He's just a low-profile crazy person. If the man from the dragon tribe really went crazy, they'd definitely be screwed. I've also said that I want you to grant me death. As long as you succeed, I'll let you go. The man from the dragon tribe continued. And Lin's lips twitched upon hearing this. If they really killed this man from the dragon tribe, then even if he didn't let them go, they could still leave. After all, the man from the dragon tribe was already dead. How could a dead person stop them? Sure enough, the man from the dragon tribe had stayed in this sanctuary for too long, and his intelligence had also become low.